welcome on in. This evening we have a very special guest, Neon_Genesis_, otherwise known as Neon, or other names that you guys have for him. We know. Welcome on in, Neon, and everybody in chat. This evening we were talking specifically about speedrunning Final Fantasy VII, because that's what Neon's most known for. For those of you that don't know, on these podcast episodes, one of the things that we do is I have a channel point redemption where you can ask a question. So as we only have one guest this month, you can ask Neon any question you have about Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VII speedrunning. I don't know. He may turn them down depending on the topic, but welcome on in, everybody. And what we usually do first is, Neon, if you could please introduce yourself for those of you that don't know Neon, and maybe give yourself a little bit of, tell us a little bit about what it is of the whole Final Fantasy series that you love, not specifically 7.
Ooh, not specifically 7. I mean, I dived into Final Fantasy 7 when I was 10 years old, and that's kind of, I've just been obsessed with it ever since. Like, literally, 7 was the first, and I would wait for the 8, for Final Fantasy 8 to come out. There would be a trailer for it. I remember the trailer on demo, for those who remember the demos. And I was so hyped to see I was really surprised to see that 8 didn't follow on from 7, because I was like, oh, there's going to be more story. Like, what happens next? But no, it was unique. But to be fair, I just fell in love with the series from 8, then 9, and then 10 was a big jump from graphical to voice acting. And then I played 11, which is the MMO. Played that for like 12 years, and then still have my character now. And then I just playing 12 right now, and I've played 13, and I still play 14. And yeah, I just dived into the series and just fell in love completely with Final Fantasy from there. But yeah, for those who don't know me, my name is Neon Genesis. I do speedrun Final Fantasy VII, the original, on PlayStation 2 or PlayStation, the original, shebang. I love it so much. Much more rewarding than I actually thought, and I didn't think I'd be able to ever finish a run, looking at how impressive a run actually looks. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. That's what I'm doing. Cut me open, I bleed Final Fantasy.
That's great. I really like that Tomato said, I expect Neon to be answering questions as quickly as possible, as per speedrunning tradition.
Not sure about that.
So yes, guys, so the way that this works is I do have a set bunch of questions that I have previously written for Neon tonight, but I will also read out any questions that you guys have. So if you do the channel point redemption, you'll see that it's only 50 points to use. So you should automatically be able to gain access to that and ask any questions that you might have for Neon this evening. So my first question that I have, actually, is what first got you into speedrunning?
Well, the irony is, like years and years and years and years ago, I don't know how many years ago, I didn't like the idea of speedrunning. I thought, probably like most people, when they first think of speedrunning, they think, oh, you're rushing the game, and how can you enjoy it, and all this stuff. So, but I don't know what it was. I think it was I don't know when it was. I think it was 2018 maybe. I was just on YouTube, and I'm obsessed. Like I'm obsessed. I'm like looking up remixes from the Final Fantasy series, or I'm looking up videos or lore videos or just anything on Final Fantasy. And I don't know how or when, but I stumbled across I was tempted to link it, but the 2017 GDQ video, that's anyone can like YouTube that and you'll find it. And I had Dave Stereo and all these other amazing people in there, and I just was gripped watching this really unique way of playing Final Fantasy VII. Like, not just with playing it fast, but how intricate and how delicate the run was, that like anything could go wrong and it's all over. And on top of that, to I guess shout out that in particular video, the commentary of that speedrun is to this day probably still the best commentary I've ever heard. And they were like, when they were explaining things, they would explain things thoroughly, and you just really like knew what they were on about, and they made it just really enjoyable. And if you go and look at that video, I swear it's got millions of views on it, because it really is a great run. But that's what kind of got me interested. I watched that run, and then I think I think Dave Stereo himself actually was bringing out, I think anyway, I don't remember now, tutorial videos, which I think a lot of people running FF7 probably have had a look at them, which I've linked you before, H1, so you know what I'm on about. And I tried to dabble in it. I didn't know anything about speedrunning at all. All I knew is that you needed a PS2 and Final Fantasy VII and a controller. So I went into a shop in York, where I'm from, and just thought, I'll see if I can pick up, a console. And I asked if they had the model that they were, speedrunning on. So they didn't have that one because it's American only, which we'll get into later on. And anyway, I picked it up and followed this guide, and I got pretty far. I got to the Materia Keeper, where you had to do the Lucky Seven trick, which again, I guess we'll get into that later on. And yeah, I beat that boss, and then I put it down. And by this point, I was streaming, and I'd mentioned on my stream, I've been like checking out like Final Fantasy VII speedruns. I'd like to maybe, if anyone's interested. And back then, I was going through a bit of trying all these different things on my stream. I was playing a lot of Final Fantasy XIV streaming. Then I was doing variety and horror, and I'd mentioned it. I never really kind of got a reaction, so I just kind of put it down and left it. And then I think months had gone by again, and I started looking at streamers who were doing it. Bumped into like the big ones like Caleb Hart 42. For those who don't know, he's like huge on it. So I was watching his stream and never really like approached it. And then just watched runs kind of casually. I'd wake up in the morning, stream was on, and he's American, Caleb Hart, so I'd catch his runs early in the morning. And then over time, I would start to like ask more questions, or do you not need to do this now, and just asking questions. And then we got into lockdown, the second big one in the UK, which is around January last year. We went into lockdown again to like April or May or something. And I was still like heavily watching the speedruns, and then I brought it up again and was like, okay, so hey, Final Fantasy VII speedrun, I can do a couple of tricks on there now, and stuff like that. And then I remember the viewer actually, they were like, oh yeah, I'd definitely be up for watching, to see what you know. So then I went live, and I legit teared up actually in my starting soon screen, because I didn't think that anyone would turn up, because it's something so out of what I do. I'm no speedrunner. I'm playing 14, which is an MMO, so I'm kind of in that MMO category. And then one of my friends, Moment of Green's, one of her friends who I didn't know, he raided me, and then we just had like quite good numbers for that night, and it kind of derailed from there. And I was just obsessed with like continuously trying to get the strategies down and to learn more and more. And then I was diving more into other speedruns on Twitch and stuff. And that's literally how I got started. But for last year, though, I was like, okay, we're going to see how far we go. And maybe by the end of last year, we'll try to finish a speedrun. And I don't care about the time, just finish a speedrun and go from there. I'm always been about baby steps. So that's literally how I got started.
It sounds a bit like an addiction. Like you got into it.
Well, speedrunning as a whole, I kind of think it is an addiction, because even though like you would play like any game, whether you speedrun or not, you can play it and play it and play it, and naturally you get burnt out. But when you are in speedrunning, you get this adrenaline rush of, oh, I wonder if I can do it faster this time. And when you see that on your splits that there, you've got you did this section faster, or that section faster, or you got some good RNG here. There's this rush of saying, my God, look how fast we're getting. And then I never really ever thought about the leaderboards. I just wanted to finish a run and get a time. But it kind of went from there, where it was like, okay, well, let's just get these strats down. Then it would be, let's just finish a run. And then it would go to, when I finished my first run, I kind of like, I ended my stream and was like, okay, we finished it. But then people were like saying to me, oh, I can't wait until he submits his first ever full run. And then I was like, well, I never even thought about submitting the run. I just thought, oh yeah, how cool would that be if I could be in the leaderboards? I thought just once, just being there and just be able to walk away and feel like, look, we're in top, even if it was 100. I didn't care, just to be on that leaderboard. I'd be like, that's cool, and it'd be an honor to be amongst all these other names. And then it just kind of escalated from there. And then you're just learning better strats and quicker things. And then there's like the step count, which again, we'll get into later on, but it is quite the addiction. Get sucked in easy.
Um, okay, so let's ask the next question. Is one Final Fantasy game known in the speedrunning community to be the easiest to learn over other Final Fantasy games?
Well, the ones that I'm aware of, I can't comment on 1 to 6 because I don't know those runs and I barely know the games. But from 7, 8, 9, and 10, the ones that I've dabbled in and or have watched runs of, um, and I guess I recently watched a run of 15, but I don't really know too much. I can say that I warrant to talk about it. But between 7 and 10, I'll keep my answers between 7 and 10. I'd say 8 is probably, in my opinion, this might be like a hot topic, I guess, but 8 would be like the quote unquote easiest. It has a really rough first hour start, but then after that, it's downhill, and there's a few bosses that can cause like RNG and cause you a bit of trouble. But otherwise, it's quite a cozy and comfy run. But 7, I think 7 might be the hardest. I honestly, it's so hard because I've never ran 9. I ran 10 a bit though. 10, I speedrun it, but without a sphere grid, so even more like harder, I guess, or you'd have thought so. And it was actually way easier than I thought because it was more scripted. Like it would literally tell you in the notes, okay, Tidus to attack here, then the boss will have a turn, and then you do this. And in that exact script order, that's how the game would be. So I found that was amazing because they knew what your stats were like, so they knew how much agility you'd have and stuff. So it was kind of interesting. But yeah, I think 8 would be considered the easiest. Also, I guess I'll mention to top it off, Awesome Waves, who, if you don't know who he is, he's an amazing FF8 runner. I don't know if he's still got the world record, but he had the world record for a while. He made this most incredibly intuitive guide for speedrunning FF8 without using all the top dog strats, but such a route that you would get a really good time. Like I think I got a 7 hours and 55, and the world record's about 7 hours 25 or something. So I'm 30 minutes away from world record, and that was within a beginner's route. So it's incredibly intuitive, and because of that, I would that exact like those notes, it just made FF8 appear to be easier. But I can see where and how it's difficult because in 8 you've got to track RNG. So what do I mean by that? Is literally you're tracking camera angles, you're tracking how many enemies on the world map you might get, who did what attack. So it'd be like if in Dollet, for example, for those who played 8, when you go to Dollet, you're tracking like who attacked you. Was it Squall? Was it Cypher? Was it Zell? Was it all 3? Did the soldiers have a turn? How many turns did they get? Did they use a spell? And then it goes on from like other bosses as well. And then you want to try and get the Zell card. And by having the correct RNG with the tracking, you can have Zell's card pop up straight away. So it's really interesting, but that's the first 50 or so minutes. So it can be really challenging. And after that, it's just kind of cozy because you break the game on 8 and you've got loads of strength and you're just one-shotting bosses and stuff. Not entirely, but that's essentially what the run is like. So I think 8 would be, in my opinion, the easiest for sure.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah, I do always find people on Twitch like to tell people playing Final Fantasy VIII, oh, are you doing the card game? You're doing the card game? Just like, because that's a really easy way of cheesing the game, but very different to speedrunning, I'm sure. My next question is, do you know which Final Fantasy game is the least favorite to speedrun in the runner community?
so hard. Again, my answers will be between 7 and 10. I don't know. 7's quite kind of rough, and I think the first thing that anyone thinks about when they speedrun Final Fantasy VII is, oh no, it's step count. I can't do it, And step count really is about good movement and stuff. So again, we'll get into that in a bit. But I'd say most people are off put by that, and then on top of that as well is that some of the bosses are kind of rough. Like Demon's Gate is like the biggest run killer, and no one knows what will happen in that fight. Like nobody will know. It's not like a constant scripted fight, so you've really got to kind of adjust on the fly, but keep the strategy down. And again, like seeing those fights, and if you've probably watched the run I was telling you about earlier, the 2017 one, like you can still see that it's still a tough run. So I would say 7. But 9 also has some really harsh points. Like, for example, in 9, there is no step count and battles are completely random. and you can have a run in 9 from like the beginning of the game until the end of disc 1 with, like, let's say I'll throw a random numbering because I don't know 9 too well, but let's say you might have like 6 encounters, right? But then another time you press new game and you start FF9, you might get 11, and it really is random and there's nothing you can do about it. It's literally, it can be that punishing. So 9 for me, for that, can be punishing, and it's nothing that you even did wrong. On top of that, I guess in any of the Final Fantasies, I suppose, but if you mess up like a one menu, in particular in 9, it can really come down and bite you in the butt. Like if you just miss up one menu, you've missed one thing, that can come back. And the same kind of goes with 8 a little bit, because you need your AP from your GFs and stuff. So it's intricate. But yeah, I'd probably say 7, I think, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Mm.
So that was the least favorite to speedrun in the runner community. So which is the most difficult? Probably answered it, really.
Yeah, I kind of answered that. I would probably say, let me think if I can actually think of another Final Fantasy game that even if I don't know too much about it, how I know how hard it is. Oh, I don't know. I mean, 10's a grueling run because it's a long run. A long run. Like, I think it's like 9 hours and something is the fastest in the world, And, I think that's just more about you, isn't it? You going through that as well. I think, no, I'd still probably stick with 7, I think. I think 7 would still be up there. I think when people think of 7, they think about, step count. And we're going to, like, there's quite a few things I'll say about step count, but step count, and there's menus, and there's like I said, there's bosses. Like, there's all the bosses in that game. I'd say probably about 80% of those bosses in that game can kill you, basically, if you mess up something small, which I'm sure you've got experience with now, H1. So,
and so is there a reason that you personally chose 7 to speedrun over the other games?
I think I chose 7 because 1, it was my favorite game. 2, it was because it was the first run I watched. So it was basically the only speedrun that I knew about. And when I say, like, going back to my story earlier of when I first watched GDQ to watching it on Twitch to the minute I started learning, I was watching it not like purposely watching it. I'd wake up and go, oh, who's live? Oh, this person's live. I'd tune into that. But then sometimes I'd see, oh, FF7 speedrun. So I'd go in and I'd ask a lot of questions, like a lot of questions. I'm probably that annoying viewer who always comes in and is asking questions. But I think that's what I honestly, what I would encourage for anyone to do, really, for learning anything on Twitch, is come in, ask questions, understand, and see how well they answer. And I think it's also a good way to get to know, like, that streamer, and if that person's going to vibe with you, because if they're answering questions and they're acknowledging what you're asking and stuff, like, I don't know, I think it really helps to find the streamer that you'll enjoy with speedrunning, I think, personally. So
we're getting quite a few questions in from chat, which is great. I will, guys, keep them coming in. I will get to some of them when they're a relevant question that I'm asking, and then some of them will be more towards the end as well. But it's lovely seeing them coming in. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, my next question is, what are the different types of speedruns that people do, such as slots, and what differences do these things mean?
this is quite a lengthy answer, but I'll try to keep it kind of somewhat simple. I'd say the most common runs for Final Fantasy VII, anyway, is you can do no slots, which I'll explain what that is in a second. Slots, no major skips, and then hundo. Hundo is short for 100%. People call it hundo. So yeah, and there's a hundo. So to kind of get, and then there's all bosses, which is there's loads of categories, and there's loads of categories for each type of way of running it. So you might have a HD console, they call it, which is like PS4 or PS5, and you still have your slots and no slots, and so you've really got a range to choose whatever fits you, in my opinion, if anyone was ever going to learn one. But the differences are, if I can, I only majorly know slots and no slots, but no slots, which is the one I'm more known for, is not being able to use Katsiv's second limit slots, because Katsiv's second limit can one-shot anything in the game, any boss, anything. Of course, there's some skill to it. You've got to learn the timing of the slots, which you can learn, and that's what we're not allowed to use in no slots. Obviously, in slots, it's the opposite. You are allowed to use Kate Sith, but that runs more aligned to be building up Kate Sith. So the run from no slots and slots are very similar up to the point where you get Kate Sith. Minus a few extra things that you may not need to pick up, or a few things that you would pick up because of the runs slightly different in terms of menus and stuff. But that's the major differences between slots and no slots. And then as for 100%, it's just like it says, it's everything. You get, you kill everything you can, I think. Anything that you get, any items, weapons, armor, materia, everything. Everything. All the limits, Yuffie and Vincent, you get everything. And even at the end of the run, I'll just add this in because I read it the other day, because a hundo is something I've never done. And for those who want to know how grueling 100% FF7 is, I think it's a good 17 hours, like non-stop. And obviously in speedrunning, if you can go AFK whenever you want, but you can't pause that timer. So you will lose time if you just want to go AFK. So it's a grueling run. Definitely costs a bit of stamina to do that. But that's the hundo, and then all bosses. I think it's somewhat the same, but you've got to kill all the bosses basically. So I don't know. I don't know the differences there. Again, I've not really done all bosses. And the one that's the really interesting one, I've had to write some notes down here because it's somewhat relatively new, and that is for no major skips. So for no major skips, just like you think it is, you can't use any big skips, but it's essentially the same run with no slots, I believe. And the run, I've written down the things that you can't do for those who do know what it is. So you're not allowed to use guard skip, playground skip, which is an old school skip that they used to use, calm skip, Cosmo Canyon skip, otherwise known as CC skip, Junin FMV skip, Midgar, return to Midgar red skip, the Turk skip, and yeah, not allowed to use Turk skip, I think then. And so those are your major skips. Any like baby skips that save like 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, they're allowed. And any glitches and manipulations, they're also allowed. But that's like kind of the newest kind of route or allowed category on speedrun.com anyway. And it was only invented maybe about 4 to 6 or so months ago, maybe around there, definitely within the last year. And can probably appear to be a bit more maybe friendly to someone coming, maybe. But yeah, that's the major ones, but there's a lot. And there's like emulator, PS3, which Final Fantasy VII PS3 classes as emulator, funnily enough, which is quite interesting. But like obviously you can run on PS2, you can run on PC. Like there's loads of different categories, and that's the different categories of the ways you can play the game. But then there's no slots for like emulator or slots for emulator. Slots is also known as any percent sometimes. So, but yeah, that's kind of a list of some of them. But there's a lot. Like I would be here a long time explaining all the different kinds of runs. So
I'm just wondering who does the 17-hour one other than crazy people like me that aren't taking it seriously.
I believe Zeal's. I think Zeal's got the world record right now, so he recently only got that.
But I mean, how often do you get a break for food and drink and toilet?
Well, me talking of experiencing no slots, you roughly, which is quite lucky in no slots, because a lot of that's probably a really good question if it's not a question already, but is how often can you go for a bathroom break? Well, you're quite lucky in FF7 no slots anyway. It's what I know the most about, but you have a bathroom break about 45 minutes in, and then like an hour and a half in, and then roughly every hour or so. But in a hundo, I really don't know, but you are going to have extra FMVs there because you're not doing major skips. So you might have like a few extra toilet breaks here and there. But honestly, it's the reason why I haven't done one H-bomb. I don't know. I mean, I'm dead after a 7-hour run,
Well, Pezza has actually asked. Pezza said, when are you going to try a 100% run?
I get that question asked a lot. I really, really don't know. I guess I pride myself in looking after myself really well, and or at least the best I can. And I just don't know how I feel about if 17 hours ish, I don't know off the top of my head, is the world record. How long will it take me on a run that I don't know so well? I know someone who ran for 30 or something hours. It's not healthy. So I got to look after myself. I mean, I also know someone else who was alive for a very long time. I just don't know if I could do it. So touche to the ones who can do it that long. And I guess if FF7 speedrunning is a career, I'd like to preserve it and look after myself. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon. Not yet.
Maybe a charity run one day.
I could try and do like a YOLO charity run, maybe like 20 hours or something. I could try. I don't know.
Yeah. You heard it here first, guys. Okay. My next question is, do people choose a particular console to speedrun with, and which controllers do runners find best?
Well, the controller one's a bit of an easy answer. I would say, honestly, it's preference. There's no in particular controller you have to use. What I personally run on, I run on a PlayStation 2 model. Now, I'm from the UK, so the model that you best want to use is a PlayStation 2 NTSC, so it's American, and a 90,000 and 90,001, I think, or something, 90,000 model. So we just say 90K. So a 90K model, and then of course you'll be wanting to run the game, which you'd think, well, I'll just put in my Final Fantasy VII. It doesn't work that way because you need an American version of Final Fantasy VII, of course. So then you've got to buy that as well. And then even then, good luck trying to buy a brand new American version of FF7. So you kind of are looking for like the best way to find FF7 discs in good quality. So eBay was my friend, but the first time I bought a PlayStation 2, and this is not even a joke, I got a 5-in-1 grooming kit delivered. I'm not joking. So imagine my face when that turned up, and nothing what I ordered actually turned up. But yeah, so I have the game here. Other than that, controller wise, I use a PlayStation 2 DualShock. I think that's probably, I've got like pre-owned stickers here because can't get them brand new really, but like that's probably the most popular controller, I'd say. But I did used to use a PlayStation 1 like classic, the classic grey one. So that felt really nice and light to use, but it is all preference and your button mashing technique, how you're going to mash a button. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There are a 70 something K model you can use, but you super want to be careful. I think that has to be NTSC as well. I don't think any PAL models will run this game the fastest, because what makes them run differently is in the PlayStation 2, there's a built-in software that every PS2 actually has, I think, or the Slims anyway, and you can put on a mode called fast disk speed, and it will, I did say disk, didn't I? My chat will know what I mean by that. Fast disk speed, and it will read the game faster, and it is significantly different from PAL and NTSC. But of course, if you wanted to learn, it doesn't really matter what you learn on, of course. But that's the model I use, and most people use is the 90K. And I think there's a 77K model that's okay, but any other model is just not worth it, in my opinion. You can actually get a Japanese version. So rather than the NTSC, it would say, I think it says like JP dash something, and you can get a 90K model of that. So also, if you're looking for a PS2, careful, it's not the Japanese version, but again, you'd need a Japanese version of the game. So, but that would also work as fastest speed, but the 90K is definitely the most popular, I think.
Okay, I mean that's a tough to get an American model and an American game.
eBay is your friend, honestly, or a friend of a friend if you know someone in America who can go to like I guess they call them pawn shops over there, but like a second-hand shop, and there's no other easy way really. But yeah, getting a PS2 on eBay and stuff, it was a ball ache. It was not easy, but luckily I've only had one, and it's worked fine and it's great. I'm still on my first set of discs, and they're really good. Obviously I'm super careful with them, so it's. Yeah, don't know.
My next question is, do you have particular software that you use for the runs and practice?
For practice, most people would use emulator. You can use any single emulator you want. Honestly, it really does not matter. If you were to submit a run to speedrun.com using emulator, that's absolutely fine. There's a category for that, but you would need to use a particular emulator. I don't know what they are, I'll be honest, because I still use PSX-FFVII for practice. And back when I was learning FF7 and finished my first run on emulator, I lost trail of thought then. I had submitted my run on PSX-FFVII, which is okay, which at the time was okay to submit as, but at the moment they've taken that off as not okay. I don't know why. I think it's for some consistency issues or something. I think DuckStation, for those who know their emulators, is a common one. And there might be I might be butchering one, but I think there's BizHawk that might be allowed. I think that's also okay for practicing on, fantastic to practice on. But other than that, yeah, that's probably the best one, is to just practice on emulator. I use PSX-FFVII, but you can use whatever you like.
Okay, and can you please explain the splits that you enter and what the colored numbers mean? So for those of you that don't know, this video that you see before you down here is Neon. Is this your run where you are sixth place? You came for sixth place from this run?
Yeah, this is my personal best.
So the splits are those numbers.
Yeah, so because it's a bit overwhelming when you look at it and you think all these numbers and all this, and obviously when you first look, the first thing is the big timer at the bottom. Obviously that's the total time in the run. I'm chugging some water here. The first thing I'm looking at is when you look at guard scorpion, it says -5.0. That is just essentially saying that from pressing obviously the start of the split, which is when I pressed new game, up until guard scorpion, I saved 5 seconds from my previous run, whether my PB or whatever run I'm running against. So minus is always that you're ahead of time. Now you can see that a couple of splits lower down, you'll see it says -7.9 and in yellow. So what that means is from the minute I split from the leave reactor split up until getting into the wall market where I actually press split, that was the fastest I've ever done getting from that split to when I pressed, the split again. So basically, yes, I'm still ahead of time, so it would be green, but because it's the best I've ever done, it's gold, basically. And this is a really good example. And then because on the next split, something must have happened or something, which is making me think about my PB right now. Apps, it says plus. So this means I'm now behind on time. So I've essentially lost a good 10 seconds, which means that when I next time run against this, I know that in my head, I know I've got about 10 seconds time save in that area where wall market and apps is. So that's essentially the big key things of a splits, but there's some other small intricate details, the ones at the bottom where it says possible time save and in brackets it says PB. That's saying on that entire split between Reno and Red Guards, I have 25 seconds time save from the best I've ever done. So, and if I'd have done that section in 27 seconds, obviously that would have been a gold split, but I guess we'll find out here. But I don't remember what this run was like. But that's the easy way of looking at the splits. All the other jargon you don't need to kind of overly too much worry about. Most people who don't know a lot about speedrunning, they just come in, they need to know, are you green, which is are you ahead of time, are you red, are you behind on time, or are you getting loads of yellows, because that's gold splits, which is obviously you're doing insanely fast if you're beginning to get gold splits. And just for those, because it's a common question, I think it might be chopped in the video a little bit, but on the top right hand side where it says FF7 then PSX disc, that's me completing 20 runs, which is the 20 out of, I think it says something like 2000 and something times, which is basically any time I've pressed new game, that ticks up to say this is another run. But I the way I save my splits is if I finished a run but I didn't beat my time, I wouldn't save my splits, which most speedrunners would. So my 20 finished runs is not entirely accurate. So I might have finished 40 or so, but I've saved 20 as PBs basically. But that's splits in a nutshell.
And are the splits set by I don't know, all of the speedrunners, or are they your own set split times?
These are mine. These are all mine. So even the software is mine. Like the software is a software called Live Split. You just literally download it. I had to watch a tutorial on how to like set up splits, and there's loads of different ways. But everything here is all my time. There are some other speedruns. I don't know in FF7 where you can get some kind of like splits layouts, so you can kind of like have a bit of a starting way to, okay, this is how it looks. And I think you can there's a way to like I think Primitive Death TV, another good runner, I think he was able to download someone else's personal best and put that into his splits, and he was racing against someone else's time. For example, that would be really good if you were pushing for world record. You could see if you were behind or faster than the world record. But I don't do that. But most all of what you see on there is all mine.
Okay, cool. What was the first thing that you learnt in speedrunning?
Ooh, I think the first thing I learned. Are you talking like a skip, or are you talking more like a lesson I learned, or depends on which way you mean that?
Kind of like, which way would you go about for the first thing that you learn about your speed run? Like, did you learn the steps, or did you learn
Okay.
something else? What do you think was the first thing you learned?
Okay, so the first thing I learned was I did not focus on step count or worrying too much about movement. I didn't think that. I mean, I guess I can finish off my answer with that in a minute. But I think the first thing I focused on was more the bosses and any skips that I knew I could do. So guard skip, because it saves like 18 or something minutes, and that's 80 minutes speed running. So it's a very fast, time to. It's a really good time save to get. I really wanted to make sure I got that down, even if it took me 5 minutes. It would still save me 13 minutes or more, because I'd be slower than the average speedrunner. But like learning the skips was one thing, and bosses. And I remember, I can answer this question best because my first stream with speedrunning was me doing all these like baby skips that only save seconds, and showing off bosses, and practicing Materia Keeper, and stuff like that, and getting those down first, because I think it's just about getting the strategies actually down. Don't worry too much about your step count and how fast you're doing your menus. That doesn't come into play. You just want to get the menus right, because if you do them too fast, or you miss something, as I said to you earlier about like any of those games, if you miss a menu, it's all over. You can just go. It can get balls of rate. It's bad. It's not good. So that's why I focus on that, and also something that I've thought of just off the top of my head here was, funnily enough, for someone even who knew the game quite well, did I know the game, like the whole game, like so well that I knew exactly where to go, who to talk to, and like like where do you go on disc two? After Rocket Town, where do you go on disc two? That was actually something that I didn't realize I had to learn. So that's probably the things that I set myself into doing. But always my first and only aim was to just finish a run. It doesn't matter about the time, just finish a run. So my first full run was done with save states, and it would be like, okay, save state, okay, we passed that boss, okay, save state, we're gonna go again. And sometimes I'd reload that. If I felt like I got lucky or I wanted to practice it, I'd do it again and again on stream. But that's the best way and the way I learned.
Very interesting. And how long has it taken you to get to this point in your speedrunning career?
Well, I started heavily learning around somewhere like at the end of January last year to maybe early February, and it took me. I mean, I was doing runs offline. I mean, of course, I had the one benefit of COVID is I had time, so I was able to just hammer out and do runs even offline. And I remember I'd be waking up just itching to like play the game again, and I would go one step further and put on a speedrunner. I knew it was they're either going to reset soon or they'd be starting the stream, and I would race that streamer. I'd go, right, let's go and see if I can beat them. And that's how I kind of just kept on pushing through, doing that. And so I guess since around the end of March when I finished my first full run. I guess that's officially somewhere around the time I've been around. So about 16 or so months now, I think. No, wait, no, 18 months now, maybe. Yeah, something like that. About a year and a half, give or take.
I just realized I
Did
missed
you?
a question
Yeah,
actually, I
yeah,
think.
that's fine. No worries. Okay.
No, I didn't miss a question. I was just misreading something.
Okay.
At which points in the game do you have practice saves?
So with my emulator that I use again, I use PSX Fin. I have a save everywhere. I have a save from literally the minute you like jump off the train to literally the last few parts of the game. Like, because there's it's well, one, it's great to have a screen for everything because honestly, nothing gets you better than doing something over and over and over and over again. And that's why eventually, if you play a game religiously like that, you will get good at like the way you control that person, whether it be Cloud or a different game even. And kind of to touch on the last lesson is the one thing I learned and I didn't think it would be so important is movement in any speedrun. If you move really well, that will save you more time than you actually will think. And over the course of it, in a 7 hour run, if you cut in all the corners tightly, if you're in FF7, like speedrun, if you try and talk to an NPC from far away, you might be able to save a little bit of movement. All these little things like really add up. I think, but I don't know. I I typically have saves for menus and I have saves for bosses. I think all bosses is worth having saves for because you can fight, let's say, Demon's Gate, and one outcome might go great, and then the next time you load it up, it could go different. So you can't rely on the one way. You can't rely on one fight going smoothly every single time. You need to be ready to go, okay, well, crap, like this happened. What do I do next? Well, what would you do this in this situation? And then you can even write that down and go to a speedrun and say, oh, but what would you do in this case? Also, another really important why you should be watching speedruns so you can learn because you'll learn so much as well from that. But yeah, emulator just literally I have saves everywhere, and I think most runners who take the game or the run quite seriously will have save states at some point. If you don't want to use emulator, obviously you can just get a memory card and save, but you're not going to be able to have that many saves. So just emulator is like the best way to just you know do over and over and over again. It's just the best way.
Pezza actually asked, which streamers did you race and did you win for that previous question?
So when I was back then, when I was racing them, it was Dummy Bear, who most of you guys will know if you were a part of the FF7, speedrunning community, whether you're a viewer or a runner. But I remember I raced him, and it was when I was learning step count, and I hadn't quite mastered keeping step count until the end of Midgar yet. So anyway, I was racing him, and I was doing really well. I was like, oh my god, like I don't know what time he had. He wasn't anywhere near as good as what he is now. He's like top level. I think he's like fourth now or something, which is insane and heartwarming to say that. I remember when he got like sub 730, and now he's got like 641 or something, which is just nuts. So it's been a bit of a journey, and he's helped me a lot. But I was racing him. Also, I was listening to his stream and again learning, but most of it was just I thought just for fun. I'll see how far I get. And I remember getting out of Midgar, maybe about 20 or 10 seconds behind him, and I thought, wow, I'm doing really good. Got into calm because there was no calm skip then, and then he did a skip that I didn't know how to do because I'd never been to that point of the run on step. I was actually on steps, a little bit behind, which was really good for me at the time. And then he did this skip called photo skip, which would save like 40 seconds. So he ended up going ahead of me by about, like a few extra seconds here and there. And it turned out to be like I was eventually like 2 or 3 minutes behind him, where I think I eventually stopped running. I think I just stopped running at like Rocket Town before like Palmer, and he continued on. So, but that was the one person. I didn't race anyone else, but I raced him, and I just was, if I can keep up with him, some like top-ish runner, I'll I know I'm doing well. So did all right. I remember thinking my next run I can do even better because that's the mindset you want to do. Good old Jimmy
So We've kind of answered a couple questions. Every now and then, a speedrunner finds a new time skip like the Calm Skip or Cosmo Canyon. What do these people do to find these, and how difficult are they as a speedrunner to learn and put into what's become a habit as a run?
Well, I'm very privileged to actually say that the only biggest time skip that I've seen and witnessed in the community myself was Calm Skip. When Calm Skip came about, holy moly, there was like such a ruckus in not just the community itself, but like people who didn't even know speedrunning, FF7 speedrunning, they knew there was this big skip. And how it actually got found was Kuma, just someone in the community, not like an actual runner, was trying for ages, and he would just get on his chocobo, or even not just on his chocobo, he'd run around the world map on the emulator, and he would bump into things, and he would just keep bumping into everything, every mountain, and even on a chocobo just kept them bumping. And then he would find, like, there's a really good video I watched actually recently. I don't know the name of it because I watched it, I thought it was fantastic, and but there's a video on YouTube somewhere that really goes over the whole journey of Calm Skip. But like that's essentially how Kuma found the skip. He would find a way to like walk across like a river, and then when he did it, he obviously uploaded it, put it in the FF7 Discord, and honestly, the minute we knew there was a chance, because he'd done it, he was just now replicating it, but we had questions unanswered, like is step count still the same, or are we going to get all of our items that we not, because normally at the end of Calm you'd get the PHS to allow you to change party members, but if you skip Calm you don't get that. So then you begin to think, well, so what happens if I enter Junin then? Do I have a PHS? Like, does it just does it appear? And it doesn't appear. And then you fight bottom as well, and then you're like, well, Barrett normally takes your PHS off you, so like what happens there? So there was loads of these unanswered questions, but I'm not even joking. I remember it was such an excitement to be in that community. People were not streaming anymore. Sorry, not speedrunning, but everyone was just trying to replicate it. Like, and I mean everyone. And rather than like, let's say you typically got 30 viewers as a streamer, you'd get 100. If you got 500, you'd get 1,000. Everyone was getting triple the viewership or even more than what you'd normally get. And it was just, everyone was trying to help everyone. People were sending in videos saying, I've tried this and I've tried that and I've gotten this and I've gotten that. So we literally just came up with a way. And when we finally came up with a way to do it, it evolved and adapted, and it got much quicker and easier. I think originally we had to like glitch into the Zolom, where when you fight in the Zolom, you have the chocobo music playing, and then you'd have to run away and all this. So it's really, really exciting to watch everyone come together as a community. And then, of course, when we did come down with a strategy, it was, everyone and the mother was racing and speedrunning the game to try and get the world record, because it was a good, 80, I think it's about a 16, 17 minute optimally. If you like crunch down, you can save that many minutes. So it was basically world record was up for grabs again. So like people were just hammering it, but that's literally how they learned that. Did I participate in any way? Of course, I was trying to replicate to try and perform the skip or whatever, but I never did any knocking into mountains or anything. But Kuma, give the credit to him, he found it, I think.
It's quite crazy that it exists in the first place.
It was the pipe dream. People were going, oh, there must be somewhere. And I remember a year before, there was like, when you enter Calm, don't ask me why, and I can't even explain it now. But like, if you like try to leave after you get the cutscene saying, oh, you've got to stay in Calm, we need to do the flashback, if you try to leave, you get like a small bit of lag. And I remember there was a runner who doesn't run anymore, but he was saying, oh, I think with that lag, we might be able to glitch through. And it was like the pipe dream. People were going, it must be possible. And that's why Kuma just went out on his way to I'm going to find a way, and did it. It was crazy.
It's
honestly
amazing.
nuts.
So the Calm Skip itself, is that one difficult to do, to replicate?
The Calm Skip?
Yeah.
I think initially, when we first had the first version of it, it was pretty difficult, and it would not save time, because you could not save time. Sorry, let's say that again. It was like you could end up not saving time if you took that long trying to replicate it. As for now, honestly, As long as you kind of have an understanding, like if you just copied what someone did, you could probably just do that. If you copied what I did, I bet I could have you doing it in 20 minutes or something, H-bomber. I know that sounds big-headed, but it's true because you'd just be copying my movement. And if I would say, okay, when you hit this part of the grass, you just turn up, you get to this part of the mountain, turn right. You know, if you did that, you could do it, but you wouldn't understand it. But when you understand, like, that if you move too far from a certain, you know, from a certain part of the map or something, another part of the map doesn't quite load up, and then that can cause issues. Or, for example, if you didn't even think about this, which a lot of people don't, is that obviously naturally on the world map, if you move a lot, you will encourage an encounter naturally, because world map encounters are not tied to step counts. You can just get an encounter, and it's not something that you're in a complete control with. So if you moved too much and you went through the mountain, you would get an encounter. Now, if you got an encounter in the middle of the mountain that you crossed through, your run would soft lock. You would be stuck. Cloud would be stood there like this, not being able to move. So it can be kind of intricate, but it's not overly too difficult. Again, once you kind of have a small understanding to do it. So definitely, I think something like a new runner could even potentially start looking at fairly soon, honestly, because, you know, going to Calm, there's no value there. I mean, story-wise there is, but there's no value there. There's no EXP. There's no gil. There's a few items in there, but which are not worth picking up if you don't need to. So there's no real need to go there. It's just button mashing. So it's saving your wrists for 18 more minutes. So I would say there's no reason why you couldn't learn it fairly soon. Like, let's say a month into learning, there's no reason why you couldn't. So we're not too difficult.
Yeah, Gags has just said we might see the skip if we're lucky. Yeah, if we keep going through these questions, Gags, we're gonna get there. So my next question is,
Oh yeah,
could
you
you
watched
please,
it.
could you please explain the step count aspect of speedrunning and what's your top tip for helping people learn it?
Okay, so I'll start with my top tip. My top tip really is to kind of just play the game. Honestly, just keep playing the game. The more you are controlling Cloud or whoever, but as soon as you're controlling Cloud and you're moving these screens more and more and more, you have that mindset of, okay, I need to cut this corner as tight as I can. Doesn't matter about like fights, but to cut those corners and stuff, you will already be on your way to learning step count. So I'll try to like explain step count as the best I can and as dumbed down as I can, so people can kind of get a bit of a grasp on it, because it is quite a technical thing. But I'll use an analogy to start off with. And if you imagine, like, if Cloud was running, I know people listening won't be able to see what I'm doing, but if you imagine like Cloud's running and you imagine like rainfall coming from a side angle, if you imagine that you're running and a raindrop hits you, that would be what you'd call an encounter, right? Now, what we do in Final Fantasy VII on certain screens, we will walk steps to either underwalk that encounter. So what, like if Cloud's running and the raindrop falls in front of Cloud, it's missed Cloud, and because we've slowed down. So that's the best way to describe step count. But step count's a little bit more intricate, and it goes into like fractions and step IDs and all this. But it's quite a technical thing to learn, and it definitely can be really intimidating and easy to think I must learn that. And why it's dangerous not to be on step count is that you will get more encounters, which is not usually an issue, but you can also get pincers, which are like the fights where you're stuck in the middle and you can't run away. So, and if you're not on step count, you don't know when that's going to happen. So then you've got to, if you're familiar with the game, you need a tool or some sort of tool, whether it be like a grenade or a Molotov, to get out of that situation so you can run away. Now, if you kill just one enemy and run away, you still don't get EXP. So there's no point like getting, you know, the full EXP and the kill from that. So that's what people are scared of, and that's what can really cause you a lot of time. Now, obviously, being on step count, if you're avoiding certain encounters with walking, that makes over the course of the entire run, you get a lot less fights, which means the run gets quicker. And I think it's roughly about, I don't know exactly now these days, especially with all the skips, I'd say about 15 or 17 minutes. It does save that amount of time by being on steps, which is why I drive the point home for anyone who does want to learn that it's not a must to learn step count for the sake of saving 17 or 18 minutes for you to go through this whole process of trying to learn step count to to eventually being put off because you think you can't do it. But again, if you just move in Cloud and you're getting from A to B as quick as you can, you'll start to pick up the best ways to move Cloud. And like obviously when you're on step count, you've got to count the exact steps, like when we count steps, if Cloud's right foot like touches the ground, we class that as a step, obviously. But like the way Cloud moves is you don't see the left foot. So his right foot, for me, that's his second step. So as soon as I'm counting steps, I'm going 2, 3, 4, 5. And then like, let's say in the reactor or something like that, I'm having to do like 8.5 steps. So I'm like counting 8, and then I let the leg rotate a little bit around, and that should be enough. I'm always hoping, but I can't be doing that bad. But it's hard because if I'd have done 8 steps, it would have been too little. And if I'd have done 9 to 9.5, then the next encounter would appear to be a little bit closer because I've made it come closer because I walked. So basically, that's how I want to think about it. Is that if you walk, you're increasing the next encounter happen. Because if you want to imagine that if you walk, it increases the danger value. That's essentially how it's working. So step count's really technical, and it's in Final Fantasy VIII as well. Just not as strict as FF7's, but it's not in FF9's at all, I don't believe. And it's not in 10, and I don't think it's been in a Final Fantasy game since. But getting step count down is a lot of fun and very rewarding. But I would learn just the general movements of the game first, and then start to say, okay, I want to learn steps, but I want to learn steps up to apps, or maybe up until another section of the game. But let yourself go for that point. Just say, okay, well, I've done it. That's this run. Next run, if I'm, or maybe you'll find that your steps are even better that run, and you'll think, well, I can go further next time, and just kind of go from there. I mean, I've done runs where I think my first full run, I was on steps until just before getting to Barrett's hometown, Coral. So, I was really excited to even got on steps that far, and it was only because I'd underwalked by a half a step. So, I did hammer the emulator though. Again, best way to learn steps, but I wouldn't like prioritize steps. Just get a run done, learn the strategies and the bosses and the menus, then you can start worrying about everything else, in my opinion. So
now, talking about menus, my next question is, what's your top tip for helping people learn the materia swaps? Is it just a memory thing, or is there something more to it?
Well, for example, if you go to speedrun.com, there will be some notes on there that you can use, like some guides. I think Dash Retro really recently actually put out a full video there. But you can either like watch a video, then write your own notes down, for example, or like there might be like RJ the Destroyer, another amazing runner, and I think the current world record holder for slots, if I remember saying that. He had this fantastic set of notes that I used and kind of still used to this day, and but it's outdated. And you've got it all there. You just got it there, and it just at the beginning, it's just more the repetition of doing it, and also your notes are there. And at the end of the day, you might know the first half of it eventually. Then you look over and go, oh, is this now? So it's more of a memory thing. It's not just something that you think, okay, well, I might just, you're not YOLOing it. You have got your notes written there, and there's always a reason behind something to why something's on. Like, for example, I'll give you a good example there, but on the Genova birth fight, a lot of runners would equip Shiva on Cloud, and I'm thinking, well, but why? Like, we don't summon Shiva. We don't need the AP. It lowers my HP. So why do I need to equip Shiva? And it took me months to realize. But what it is it's manipulating Cloud's HP to be a little bit less than what it was. And that's to encourage that Genova birth when she attacks Cloud, it will give Cloud a limit rather than like needing maybe 2 attacks because maybe that damage wouldn't be enough. So, but that's something you would learn over time. And again, you can always ask runners about, but that's my experience in that anyway. So.
Very interesting. And what is your trick to knowing when to turn ATB on and off?
Again, the notes will tell me, but the general my understanding of it is any long periods of time where you're running, where you can get encounters, whether you're on steps or not. You want to be on active so you can run away as fast as you can. Now, if you're off steps, that can be bad for you, because if you get a pincer and you're stuck in the middle and it's on active, and for those who like don't really know what active is and what wait and active is A to B wait is like where, if you look at the bottom of the screen now on the if you can see anywhere, the video there, you can see that my time is flowing and it's always flowing, but so is the bosses and the enemies. So the best way to think about Final Fantasy VII is that you've got an ATB bar filling, but so does the boss, but you just can't see it. So it's always about a race between, obviously, who can get the attacks in first, right? But like, that's one thing with ATB active, constantly being active. So if you're in a pincer, they're just going to keep getting turns and attacking you. And obviously, if one's attacking you from behind, it'll do double damage or so. So you can die really, really quickly with wait. But any long periods of running, like if you're on the world map somewhere, or if obviously if you're just running off steps, you want to be on active when you're not going to be doing any boss fights. As for ATB wait, as it says, it will pause basically in certain areas. Now, the areas where in a fight where time will freeze is if you're in a menu, like if you're in item, magic, summon, any of those menus, or even if you've got your attack and your finger pointed on the enemy, time is frozen, that enemy's ATB bar's not filling, and yours isn't filling, and you can sit there all day because time is frozen. Now, we use that to manage our moves, by not giving, like, let's say a prime example here would be like a Demon's Gate. We do not want that boss getting extra turns. And now if you're not in a menu, that enemy or that boss in Demon's Gate is just going to be piling on damage on you. And to talk about Demon's Gate a little bit, Demon's Gate's very rough. I was watching a casual playthrough maybe about 2 months ago of someone had like a 2000 HP party on average, and she went in and Demon's Gate did a critical hit of 2800. Now, for a disc 1 boss, and definitely a gatekeeper, no pun intended, Demon's Gate, hitting that hard as a critical hit, just straight up one shot attacking and killing someone, that's one thing. But now going to speedrunners, they have 600 HP at most for Cloud, or somewhere around there. So, or like 670 or something. So, we do use things to help us there, but by being an ATB wait, which you'll see for most of the run, practically from like after like Gold Saucer, you're practically on ATB wait for nearly all bosses. So most bosses you want to be on ATB wait for, because you're able to control moves and time. It's kind of hard to explain, but by good ATB wait tricking, as they call it, in other words, not leaking unnecessary time. Like if you've got nothing to do but wait for an ATB bar to fill up, absolutely fine. But if you're like on Cloud and you're not in a menu and you're going, what do I want to do? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? You're letting that boss have another turn on you, and he's just going to wail on you. And that can be like the same for like Materia Keeper or Red Dragon. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, some of these bosses can be really hard, but again, ATB wait tricking is definitely a skill, and there's an understanding there, and there's a few like nuances that you can do to take advantage of the system. But that's definitely another learning curve, and that's also the reason why I would say, again, running the game, learning the boss fights first before step count, mastering ATB wait tricking, or at least have an understanding of it, and then go from there. But that's essentially how I know when to do ATB wait or ATB active. Is, am I going to be, long periods of running, or do I need to be like really min-maxing like the amount of turns I'm given to a boss? There'll be certain bosses you can do on active. For example, Bottom's Well, which we might see me do, but that wants to be on ATB active because we want the poison ticks from poison to be ticking as fast as we can. And but then we poison Materia Keeper, but we need to control those ticks. And with us controlling the time, we means we can make sure we get the right number of ticks of poison to come off at the right time. So it's a really interesting speedrun for sure. It's very clever. I love it.
I was thinking, actually, was there a point with your materia, your swaps? I seem to remember you saying that there's one point in the game towards the end where that's like the last time that you need to do the menu. Whereabouts in the gameplay is that? Whereabouts in the story?
Well, there's there's one big menu, and it's the biggest menu, and kind of the last major time that you do your materia. There's a couple of other times where you do your materia, but you're not doing your whole party materia. In that game, it's after the live stream. I can't feel like I'm saying live stream. After the live stream, you get Cloud back in your party, there ain't no getting off this train we're on, and then you go to Junin, and you're about to go and do carry armor. So before you enter Junin, you do this massive menu. It's easily the biggest in the game. Now, I will just say, compared to Final Fantasy VIII, it's nowhere near the menu that some people might have seen if they've done FF8. But in FF7, it's literally you're gearing up, I'd say about 85% of your three main characters at that point, which will be Sid, Tifa, and Cloud. And you're going through like equipment and materia, and you're setting them for basically the rest of the game at that point. And then we're using certain statuses like Fury and Tranquilize in that run, or Sadness, to help monitor damage as well. So it's mainly getting all them down. And again, it's kind of one of those things where that menu, it took me ages, and I wish I had it handy because I've just recently moved, but I had a notebook, or quite a big notebook, and I wrote that down. I wrote it down, and then I'd have like a coffee table at my side. And honestly, during runs, I'd be like that during like the live stream. I'd be like looking and going, right, okay, what's the first thing I do? But it's such a big menu, a massive menu. Took me a long time, and I'd probably only say about 8 months ago until I really started to get that down. I think I can just about do it now. I'm thinking about, because I touched the game in about 3 weeks, but I think I could do it now without really having to look at stuff. But again, doesn't matter how long you're running for. Your notes are there. You could always like scan over and go, okay, yeah, these are here. Some runners still to this day, even some of the top runners, they'll still look at their notes and go, oh yeah, because I'm going to put the materia here, or in this certain order, because soon you'll start looking at inputs, which is another thing with menus where you count how many times you're pressing a button. Let's say I might do my menu in 58 presses of a button, but there might be an optimal way in doing 40 clicks of the button, but having my materia the same way. That will be optimizing it and saving me time. I've got my time from that menu down from like 50 something seconds to like, I think my quickest was like 28 seconds, which is impressive when you think about it. But God, it was frustrating to try and get it down that far. And it was literally me to the point of hurting my hands, where it was an emulator again. I'd press a button, do the menu, and my hands would hurt. Press a button, do it again. And my hands were actually hurting at that point, but that was just because of frustration of trying to get it. But that's that menu there. And then there is a couple of points where you'll do some adjustments. I think in North Crater, just before the final set of bosses, you have to gear up Tifa, but just Tifa. So you've got to just do Tifa and make sure she's set up ready. But your last one is outside Junin after the live stream. Big menu.
Very, very interesting.
Mm.
Okay, so guys, we're coming up to the last 10 questions. So you guys, if you haven't got your questions in yet, feel free to add them in. It's the channel point redemption. Anyone in chat should be able to automatically ask it. So yeah, if you've got any questions that you think haven't been asked yet, do pop them on in. I have seen a few that actually I think I'm about to ask myself, but I will read through them. We'll see if there is anything that we've maybe missed. So my next question is, what is the longest break that you get in the whole playthrough, and how many breaks do you actually get?
Ooh, in terms of how many numbers of breaks, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I can probably give you a good idea. The biggest break, though, definitely is the live stream. There's in a live stream where you finally discover the truth, without I guess spoiling too much for people, when you finally discover like the whole truth behind the event from however many years ago. As soon as like Cloud takes off his like helmet, that's like a 3 minute and 40 something second break. Off the top of my head, I would say roughly about 3.5 minute break, which in the grand scheme of things is not a long time, but for a runner who, just to get up and actually can step away for a few minutes, it's a blessing. But I think one of the shortest breaks is something like that's worth taking, is like a 56 minute break or something, or 50 second. The motorcycle chase scene we just saw, for those who are watching, that was like quite a short one, and honestly you really are rushing to the toilet and back again. And how many breaks, I touched on it earlier, but a little bit I would say you get the first 45 minutes in, you get a 1 minute break, or 1 minute 18 seconds or something. The next break's at the motorcycle chase. There's a 1 minute break, and it's quite a quick one. It's like a minute and 8 seconds or something. Entering Gold Saucer. There is 2 1-ish minute breaks before and after Parma. Then there's one at the scene at the end of this one with Aerith before the fight. I'm being subtle here. I don't know why. And then there's like a minute and 20-second break after the Aerith fight, and then there's a few others in disc 2. Not many in disc 2. I think there's like obviously the live stream is disc 2, so that's 3 minutes. There's a 1 minute break at the end of the North Crater on disc 2. I think that might be. Is that it for breaks in disc 2? It might be. But disc 2, I'll finish off that question with this, what I'm about to say, and then there's no breaks, disc 3. So why that might sound really weird is because disc 1, this is going to sound so weird for those who don't know, disc 1 is like half of the game. Like the half of the entire speedrun is actually disc 1. Because once you get like to the fight with like the disc 1 Aerith, that's literally half the run. You're about 3 hours and 40-ish minutes into the run. So a run roughly being about 7 hours, it's half the run. Disc 2 is like 2 and a bit hours, maybe. And then disc 3 is like, honestly, it's like 35 minutes. It's not long at all. You just, you rush down to where you go. You don't pick up any unnecessary chests. You choose the right turnings. There's obviously some like small skips you can do and stuff. And that's it. You gear up for the fights and you're good to go. And barring nothing gets in your way, it should be done. It should be a good 30-ish minutes. So that's why it's weird when you say there's no breaks in disc 3, but disc 3 is like half an hour long. Honestly, by the time you've killed Hojo and you've got your 6 minutes of constant button mashing afterwards, it's like literally just like trying to keep up stamina there. You're pretty much done in like 40 minutes or so. So yeah, there's plenty of breaks, I think, for such a long game, but because of the time we've got now, with it being down to like, well, it's basically 6.5 hours now. It's 6 hours and 33 minutes now, I think, for the world record. It's absolutely bonkers. It's quite lucky to have like basically a 1 minute break every hour, but obviously it goes without saying, have a good meal before you speedrun, drink plenty of water, bring like some water with you, take your bathroom breaks, and even just for me, I have to go down the ladder behind me. So even that's just stretching a little bit, but it is something that you build yourself up to as well, is to get used to all those, the lack of for some people, but breaks. Yeah.
Okay, I think this is going to be very interesting. What is your least favorite part of the game, both speedrun wise and story wise?
Speedrun wise, honestly, I really like the run. I really like it, but there is sections where or things that can happen, and then that will be just like the smallest thing, and it can. That's again, it shows the intricacy of the run, but the smallest thing can really throw a spanner in the works. And like step count, like if I fumble, like if I like run around in circles or something for just like 5 seconds, in terms of step count, it's over. You can't go back on step count. You can't do that. The run is dead. You would have to start over. Now you can save your game, and if you hard reset, which is like turn the power off on the console, then reload up again, I think you kill your steps, so there's no longer steps there. I think that's how it is. And then I think if you soft reset, which is just pressing which is like just coming out of the game on your own, with the start and the select and everything else, I think you can keep your step count and stuff like that. Oh, actually, hard reset keeps your step count, but it ruins something we call formations, which is the types of enemies we'll get. So you won't be getting the enemies that you want, which is also really important for speedrunning, because again, for step count, because we'll know that on certain screens we're able to manipulate to get using step count, we're able to manipulate so that we can get the right enemies in order for us to get the right spells or enemy skills, for example. And if you weren't on steps and you go to go and learn magic breath, you might have to fight 6 or get into 6 fights for that enemy to appear, and that's can really, like, for being off steps, can kill you a lot more time as well. So it's not like the enemies are hard at that point. But thing I hate the most, in terms of bosses, honestly, I mean, I'm quite an anxious person anyway, but getting to Demon's Gate is always a bit of a bit of an anxious moment, because again, one slip up in that fight, it's all over. Honestly, I don't save in speedruns. It wastes time. So you're running for 7 hours without ever saving, ever, which is, I guess that's a bit of pressure on you, isn't it? And you can save, but waste time. But knowing that you've not saved, and if you did die, it's the end of the game, and there's nothing you can do. And you're 4 hours in, and you're thinking, do I reset and go again? Which I've done. So, but I think another boss that I really don't like going up against, purely because of the chance of what it can do, is Kariyama on Disc 2. Now, Kariyama can start off with loads of different things in that fight, but the one thing it has an 8% chance in doing is double lapis laser. It'll do lapis laser, and it can just kill your whole party, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. The best run in the world, like whatever, it's killed hundreds and thousands of runs, and there's just nothing you can do. And again, most runners who are like top 10 or something, they're not saving before that fight. So again, your run's just dead. It's really hard to just go, right, well, your run's dead, time to go and play another game, or it really, there's no easy way of doing it. But yeah, there's that. And going back to Demon's Gate, there's an 8% chance he can do a move on you that we don't typically buy an item to use to cure it, and that's to petrify one of our characters. Again, if it does that, and there's just an 8% chance he'll do it, there's just nothing you can do about it, and your run is 99% sure it's dead then. Other than that, like, in terms of like hating in terms of the area in the game, Gold Saucer, just because the music's a bit repetitive, because you are in there for a little while, or even hearing the Rufus Ceremony music, like after Bottom as well, for a while. I think it's like 25 minutes of hearing the Rufus Ceremony music. It does get a bit, monotonous hearing it, but no, I think the rest of the run, it's really good. It's like, obviously, when a good run's happening, it's such an adrenaline rush, and for a speedrunner to see, like, if you got first try poison, like, see in the chat going, yo, let's go, first try, let's go, it's that buzz, I think. So no, I really do enjoy the run rather than hate it.
Is there a part of the story of Final Fantasy VII, as just a player and not a speedrunner, that you get bored with? You just normally play?
I would normally say, like, the live stream can be a bit droning, a bit, but it's such a revelation in terms of story that it's a great section, really. I do like it. Speedruns, it can appear to be a bit boring, but it's actually not as long as people think. For me, I think I used to hate going to Coral and doing the whole Barrett segment, but I find that I've looked at Barrett in different eyes, and I feel like he holds a lot on his shoulders in terms of his, like, development and character. So I actually kind of like that section. I think I've got one in my mind. I'm thinking, I'm just trying to think if that's the worst bit that I don't like doing. I think if I had to choose, honestly, the Cam flashback. It's cool to have, like, Sephi in your party, whipping out his gigantic sword and stuff. But I don't know. It's just there's nothing really much you can do. You can look at the material that Sephi's got, and there's not really much you can do. There's nothing you can click. There's nothing you can examine. No books to read to find out more lore of FF7. And at the end of the day, a lot of that was a lie. So, like, so I think I would choose, like, Calm overall to be a bit of a resident sleeper in my eyes.
Okay, my next question, we've kind of touched on RNG, but my question is, what's RNG, and what are some of the definitive moments in the game that could mess up your run? We've sort of touched on this, but if you could just sort of overview us again.
Well, so the term RNG stands for, obviously, random number generated. It's basically a way of saying, like, if it's basically like, if you want to think of it is the term luck. So what luck are we going to get? What RNG are we going to get? And the things that can happen, there's some incredibly low statistics in certain fights where things can happen. I think it's going to be a question coming up, H-Bomb, but I'll answer it now anyway, and we can tackle that when we get to it. But for example, the biggest kind of luck you want to get is the minute you press new game to start a speedrun, there's a 10% chance it's going to finish, which means it's a 90% chance it's going to die somewhere. So when you digest that, you kind of understand like how quote unquote difficult this speedrun is. But there are some things in the game that, you know, you might be having the best run ever. Like I've had like some ridiculously good paces where I've never had that pace ever, and I've actually taken screenshots to reflect back on, you know, in a few months' time to say like, was that time still really good? But like, there's like, for example, let's talk about one that most people won't think of, because we've mentioned Demon's Gate a lot. We've mentioned Materia Keeper, which is an amazing strategy when you watch that fight happen. But one fight that people wouldn't find that can be quite dangerous and can kill you, and there's nothing you can do, is Dine. So Dine in like you know, the like desert prison, there's like a chance that he can critical hit you with his attacks. Now, for us in the no slots runs, there's not really any items that we can do to heal ourselves. We don't have any elixirs. We don't have, if you're lucky, you might have a high potion if it dropped. I guess that touches on RNG right there, or luck. And there is a chance that he can crit you 2 or 3 times. And if he crits you on his final turn, which even his final turn's a 50% chance in actually doing, he can crit you and kill you. And you're sat there trying to digest the fact that you're just sat there digesting the fact that you've just lost to a boss that's not very difficult at all, really. And all you're doing is throwing 4 Molotovs. That's all you're doing. There's nothing else you're doing. And again, it could just all be over. And that's a small thing of RNG there. I'm trying to think of any other key moments. Definitely Demon's Gate. Materia Keeper can actually be really hard. Like the way that Materia Keeper can start the fight, he can do it can do Trine on you, which will nearly down to like 20 HP kill your whole party. It can kill someone if you're really unlucky, especially if someone's died up to that point and didn't receive EXP. So there's I don't know the percentage of that actually happening, but it's quite common. So that can happen, and that's just RNG again. But you can. There's a tool, a backup strat to deal with that. And then there is obviously I spoke about Carry Armor. I spoke about Demon's Gate. There's a slim chance that Red Dragon can attack Cloud, which is what we want, but he can crit Cloud and kill Cloud. And then by that point, you're trying to revive Cloud. And I've had this happen in 2 fights where I Phoenix down Cloud in one of the fights, and then that boss will attack Cloud again, and you do it again, attacks Cloud again, and I do it again, and it will just repeat. And you're there going, "This is bull," you know. This is messed up. How is it doing it? How is it happening? I'm throwing a Phoenix down, attack the other person. It's crazy, and obviously items are crucial as well. Like if you use too many items, you'll have to do an extra shop, which is then something you need to look at, because your gil is also important. You don't just go running through the game without with just gil and spending it on whatever you want and comfortable. You know, you're buying certain things, you need certain amounts of gil for certain sections of the game, selling certain armors and materials at certain points of the game. So it's all these things play a part, and some of it is RNG. One of the biggest RNG is the world map. There's just not really much we can do to affect when the world map encounters will happen. There are things we can do where, and this is quite technical now, but if you leave a previous screen, and if you know what this is already doing the research, but let's say you left Mount Nibble at 3 hours and 8 minutes on the dot, and you ran through the map, but you ran the same way every time, and then you did the same thing but 1 second later, then did the next thing and did 1 second after that, you would then begin to see that there's a pattern with your encounters. So it's not a set encounter. So like, let's say it's very technical. The 3 hours and 8 minutes running through, you'll get 1 encounter. But let's say I ran through 1 second later, I'd run through the map the same way, there's no encounter. So we would use something called a manipulation, where we would wait that extra 1 second, because we know that we'll get no encounter running to the next destination. So, but if you're not doing that, then RNG is world map in general. Like, you don't know when you're going to get the encounters, what you'll get, and you can get pincers, and pincers can kill you about anywhere between 30 seconds and a minute. And if you're like, oh, I'm having an amazing run, I'm ahead of my time by 25 seconds, pincer, it's over. You're back in the red again, and you're trying to, in that mentality of hoping, okay, but where's my time saves? Because knowing where your time saves are means you can optimize where your time saves are, and then try and save even more time, or remembering what you did in your previous run. That's my trick. Is, oh yeah, I remember I did this. Oh yeah. Oh, I remember I said I was going to do that now. So just anything you can, like there. Just, I don't know. In terms of any other RNG, it can just be typically some bosses doing some nasty moves, and you're just going, really, dude, really, you're gonna do that now? Like, you haven't done that to me in 10 runs, and now you're gonna do it to me? Or Genova doing aqua lung, and you're there thinking, well, my whole party's dead, trying to do the backup strat, and it's just, it can really derail just the littlest thing sometimes.
Or the favorite when we're practicing and you get all of the strats, you get all of the good things happen when you're trying to show the bad things.
Yeah, or yeah, and it can be the other thing. Like, I'll say, okay, this is what will happen 9 times out of 10 on this fight, and then the opposite thing will happen. I'll go, okay, well, I'll show you the nasty thing that can happen first. Or I go, okay, this is the like, there's a chance that this boss will do this move here, and this is what we'll do, and then the fight will go perfectly, and I'll go, that the fight never goes perfectly when I'm in a speedrun, ever. Like, that's literally how it goes. And that's kind of like, even that, I suppose, is a good example of RNG there, because I'm like, well, you can't make it up. So
yeah, it's great. I mean, I guess that's why people love watching speedruns so much. It's just, you never know what's going to happen, and it's all because of RNG as well as other things.
I think it's like the thrill as well. I think it's the thrill of like, I mean, I was watching a runner this morning, Soph. She does Final Fantasy VIII, and she's an amazing runner. And she'll have this really good split where, let's say I tuned in and she was 30 seconds behind, and then she'll have a really good split section there where she's then only 6 seconds behind. I'm there going, whoa, wait a minute, this is amazing, let's go, come on, let's go. And so you get kind of invested, and the adrenaline and excitement can really set in. Then you find yourself invested. And I think also, I think what I'm understanding with Twitch is, people love to just lurk to speedruns. Like, they can like look over at any point in the run and go, oh, he's doing really good now. Oh my god, holy crap, he's a minute in front now. Okay, awesome, back to work kind of thing. Oh, he's a minute and a half. Oh my god, like, and then you look again, he's 3 minutes behind. What did he do here? And it's just so easy to get invested, but it's great lurk material. Just something so entertaining in the background. It's like watching a sports game or something for 7 to 10 hours, and you're just there's your work day sorted. It's great.
Everyone in chat's agreeing immensely. Okay, so which boss fight is the most difficult to learn, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. Of course, I'll say Demon's Gate. But there's so many. There is so many. There's like Demon's Gate is definitely one that's well worth over practicing, because again, like, one thing might happen one fight, then the next fight something else might happen. So there's no point learning what will happen and go right all the time. You can't rely on things going right. You must know what to do in the next situation, because if you don't, you're winging it and you just don't even know if you're going to make it. And then there's like Materia Keeper, like, good ATB weight tracking is needed, but if you want to get that bio to tick off and stuff, you can't be leaking time willy-nilly. You must be looking at the damage. It's a very, like, that fight as well, to even explain is intricate to explain, so I won't even try right now. But that whole fight involves like a skill of its own, because you're just in the Materia Keeper fight, you're looking at the poison ticks, how much damage your poison did, how much damage that a Tifa attacked for, and you're adding that up to 99 and all this. So that one's quite a hard fight to master, because there's so many things that you're looking at the same time. Again, practicing, you can stop and pause and go, okay, that's 70 something damage, and write that down. You can practice that way, but on a live speed run, you just got to be there going, okay, 76. And my chat are brilliant. Like, one of my mods here, Gags, he's like sometimes just typing in 76. And I'll go, like, oh, what was it? Oh, 76, okay. And he'll go, okay, 23 damage from Tifa. I'll go, okay, 99, let's go. And then I'll know. So some people do that, which is like kind of like having chat help a little bit, and gets them invested and gets them involved as well. But like learning that fight, even learning, not even just learning the basics of the fight, but learning the backup strats of some of the fights as well. Like that's something else that you need to learn as well. Is like, okay, well, if this nasty thing happened, like if Aqua Lung happens, how do you recover from that? Like literally, Cloud's not going to die. Tifa and Sid will. So what do you do? Like if you Phoenix down, they're probably going to die again. So what is the backup strat? So learning that backup strat, learning how to deal with that, even like learning all them, it's a must. Honestly, I can't even pinpoint one really nasty like boss stats, because honestly, so many bosses just deserve so much practice, more probably than why. I probably should give it more practice, to be fair. So.
Okay, now which boss fight is your favorite to speedrun and why?
So I think I know what I want to say here. I think I want to say Demon's Gate. As much as it can be it can be such a troll, and the adrenaline, I get that it can be, you know, exciting, but I think in speedrun settings, in a speedrun scene, Demon's Gate is probably the most exciting because you know, the whole chat there going, oh, here we go, good luck, Neil, and people are wishing you luck just for one fight because they know it's all going to be over if that fight you know, goes away. And again, it's a bit of potluck, a bit of RNG. You know, you're looking at dice rolls from Kate. Can he roll a 300 or can he roll a 2,400? No one knows. You're just going to run and see. But I think nothing beats the feeling of having a community roaring behind you when you've beaten Demon's Gate, and people are like, you know, let's go, and it's just nothing beats it, honestly. So I would honestly say Demon's Gate is such a good boss fight to nail down and have the whole chat rooting for you.
Oh, that's nice. What are your considerations people no, hold on. What are considerations people have to take into account for the whole playthrough? For example, the guild to buy grenades, potions, which materia, and where you get the materia, etc.
Honestly, you're kind of lucky on that one because you'll more than likely have some notes to help you there. But it's kind of a funny one as well because the guild route in particular, not really much will change if you follow the you know, what you're meant to kill. If you go around killing random encounters thinking, oh, I'll just get a little bit stronger on the way because there's a random encounter on the world map, oh well, I might as well, then that starts to throw your gil off because then you'll have too much gil. And which is not necessarily a problem, but again, if you're trying to learn a speed run, you're not going to be going fast if you've got too much gil. And then on the other hand, it's if you've got too little gil, you won't be able to buy enough stuff. And you will need practically, I'd say you need 90% of the items you do buy. You know, you can like finish the game and have like 8 tranquilizers that you didn't use, but you know, again, you've got that cushion. You don't buy the exact amount ever. You always want to give yourself a few extra here and there. But when it comes to like the small things like ethers and elixirs, which are obviously a lot more rare and spare, you know, you pick up like 2 or 3 and that's it for your entire run. So you do not want to be throwing away your elixirs in a fight and stuff, like unless it is a part of the strat or something, or a backup strat. But yeah, following the notes, you shouldn't go wrong as long as you are not killing things that you're not meant to be killing, basically, or skipping something that you're not meant to skip. Like you're not meant to skip the death sentence fight, for example. Don't skip that. You need that spell. Don't skip the laser fight. You need it. And even all that's calculated into the level and the EXP for Cloud and Tifa and for everyone really. So
my next question is what we have already answered, but if you could just speak a little bit more on it. What's the percentage success rate of actually completing the game when trying a run?
I don't know where I heard. I think it was one of the one of the runners said, but and it's just kind of drilled into my head. But there's about a 10% chance that a speedrun will finish when you click new game. That's literally the percentage. That's going off like based on your general, I guess your general look. Of course, is that incredibly accurate? I mean, I guess no one really knows, but I would say because the minute you start a new game, everything can be different. Like you might get a Cloud stat where his magic is whatever magic it is, and then it can be random where like for example, the guard scorpion, Cloud's can hit for 84 or he can hit for 98. And that will just, it's never always going to be the same, even when you start a brand new game again and again and again. So I like to kind of imagine it that whenever you click new game, it's like it's loading up a seed. It's loading up, okay, what kind of Cloud we got now? Most people say that. Oh, let's see what Cloud we've got today. Oh, we've got a 98 Cloud. Oh, we've got it really is such a variant game. You just don't know what you're going to get. I've had press a new game and you're fighting the first two soldiers and Cloud's missed, and that's already wasting time. Obviously, because you're a minute or so in, you're going to reset again, but that just gives you an idea. Like, if I was going to do a no reset run, I've immediately lost about 8 or 9 seconds just because Cloud's missed both those soldiers twice, and I've taken more damage because I've missed those soldiers attacking again. So I think it's a 90% chance that the run will die. Again, you can save, so that'll minimize that a lot, but in a typical speedrun setting, it's around that percentage, I'd say.
And how do you pick yourself up after losing the game at such a late stage?
Ooh, it stings. It stings. I think the best way is with carry armor in particular, the one that can just literally end your run with an 8% chance. I normally say it on stream. I say, all right, guys, we let this one go now. I said, we've done well up to here. I know we're either ahead on time or behind on time, whatever, but we have to be prepared. It might die, guys. This might be the end of it, but we've had a good run. But let's just see what we deal with today. I said, if it's double lapis laser, we take away the positive from the run. What went right in the run? It's always I'm like, maybe this is a bit more mental health diving into it, but it's really important to take your wins. A lot of people forget to take that rather than going, oh, bloody hell, like my run's down. And, you can be crying and be upset, but you've got to take away the positive, learn the valuable stuff that you learned in that run and take that into your next run. And that will make you a better runner. When it comes to like Demon's Gate, again, you kind of half expecting, okay, well, it might die, here. I hope it doesn't. But, I'm 3 minutes ahead. I hope it doesn't. And I'm feeling the anxiety saying that because 3 minutes up at Demon's Gate is insane. And then all of a sudden, your run can just die. And honestly, the chat are really good. Like honestly, it's the chat that makes like most of the runs. Like they, some of them will say, oh, F, and, the F for respects for the running chat. And, you might have a little moment where you're a bit down on yourself for a few minutes and you're going, oh, bloody hell, I shouldn't have done that. And I made a silly mistake. But chat are there, the first ones, whether it's on stream or in your Discord, saying, dude, that was such a good run. You're going to do it better next time. You don't have to put up with maybe a small issue that happened in that run. And a lot of them are really encouraging and reminding you of how good a runner you actually are. And I think without that encouragement, I don't think I would have persisted to continue to run FF7 as much as I did. My opinion, of course.
So, would you ever, nowadays, would you ever do a run offline on your own?
I've tried somewhat recently. I think it was like, I don't know when it was. I think it was within the last like 2 or 3 months. But I thought, oh, I'm going to sit here. I thought about doing it yesterday. I thought, I might just do a run. Then I thought, maybe I'll do today, for example. I'll just do a 7-hour run and then just do one offline, chill, no camera, no light on you, just chill. I don't perform anywhere near as well. I've actually tried. It's so funny. I get bored because I'm not talking, like chat's not there, and I've really tried, and I don't perform anywhere near as well. Like my movement's bad, and then when something really good happens, you're like looking around for your chat. It's just it's not the same. I don't know. So I can't remember the last time I did a run offline. And I'm happy to do like streams, like going over like when I was doing like bits for you, H-Bomb, saying like, oh, you might want to watch out for this and throw a few pointers out here and there. And I'm always the one to like try to encourage people to run the game, because I think like there's a stigma behind like, oh, FF7 and the step count and all this. But I'm the first one that wants to be encouraging people to run the game. I don't know if other communities are not as welcoming, or maybe other FF7 runners are not very welcoming and whatever, but I want to be the change in the community if that's the way it's going to be, and I want to be the one to encourage and try to help. Obviously, I can't make everyone personal videos and help, but I would like to think that I hope anyway that I've encouraged a lot of people to pick up the game and just try it, because other than like just talking about it and thinking, oh, I might give it a go. I've been wanting to do it for ages now, but just do it. Just pick up the game and try. Like, you can, don't worry about like. And the first thing that a runner will say to me, that a new runner will say, is, "Oh well, I can't step count." I'm going, you don't need step count. It's fine. Just run the game, or learn a smaller route. So, but anyway, yeah, I derailed a bit there, but yeah.
And what is the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome from speedrunning?
Self-doubt. Honestly, some of it is a bit of self-doubt, thinking, oh, I shouldn't, I don't know, and I messed up here, and like, oh, I've got cam skip, and I just can't do it, and I keep ballsing it up, and with a bit of persistence, a bit of help, and asking for help, and the other runners are brilliant at like giving you advice and tips. I guess the big one is self-doubt for a lot of runners, I think. In terms of the actual run itself, rather than my mindset, I can't even say I mean, top whatever ranking or whatever. I wouldn't say that I'm the best at everything in the game. Otherwise, I'd clearly have the world record. But I don't know. I getting the strats down with like like Demon's Gate and understanding things. That's something else. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know how to answer that. But yeah, I think it's, I would probably say self-doubt, and I think mastering step count, basically, and learning movement. Because a really good example here, I'll shame myself here, but about 4 or 5 months ago, I've been running this current route for a while now, and about 4 or so months ago, there was just somewhere in the game that my movement wasn't as good, and I could not pinpoint where it was. I knew what area-ish, but I couldn't work out what it was. And I thought one day my run died. I thought, I'm going to get down to the bottom of it. So I put up like, my emulator, and was practicing some movement. And then I found one of the screens where my movement, when I look back now, I can see how sloppy it was. And when I do it now, obviously it's way better. I'm still not perfect on some areas, but mastering step count, and understanding, where you can move and how you can move, like, you can move around this thing, whatever this thing may be, like this, or you can run up here and then cut it really tight. And as much as it sounds really petty, but that adds up, because it's not about speed at that point, it's about your step count. And it doesn't take long for you to ruin your step count. So I think step count is probably the bigger achievement, and it took me months to fully do a run on step count. And even now, I still take that win when I do it and say, I finished a run, I'm on step count. Now, am I, exactly where I should be on step count? I'm probably not. I'm a little bit behind, but I've done the run. I may have had an extra 1 or 2 encounters, but it's a solid run, and, I'll take that win. So I think step count and self-doubt is probably the 2 things that are to overcome for sure.
And what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting to speedrun Final Fantasy VII?
I don't want to say just do it, because that's like the obvious one. I would really not fret over step count. I really, really wouldn't. Not yet. Try to learn the run. The first thing I would ask that person is, how much time do you have to give? Because if you can't sit for at least one day for 10 hours on stream, maybe, especially if you're going to stream it, is, do you have that time to invest? Because if you don't, then why are you wanting to learn an FF7 speedrun? Like, because your first one's not going to be 7 hours. It's not going to be, it might not be 8 hours. It might be 9 or even more, because if you don't know the game as well, if you've only played the game a few times, for example, and there's people out there who've only played the game a few times, if you don't know that your practice sessions in that one run that you're going to do is going to take you ages. So I would ask, how much time do you have to invest in it? If you can't invest 7 hours once a week or once every 2 weeks, maybe look at a shorter run, like there's the PC any percent route. It's a good 2-3 if you're learning hour run. So it's much quicker, much shorter, and a good like kind of foot in the door to learning FF7, and it kind of mainly focuses on Midgar, and then push on to step count, and then that's just like your foot in the door to learning. So there's that, but I would say to just don't focus on step count. Don't worry about it. It's not an issue. It's just run. You can still get a good time. Well, especially in a short run, still get a good time being off steps. Get the strategies down. Go to plenty of streams and ask questions. Don't be that person to say, I streamed this game too. I'm a Final Fantasy VII speedrunner. Don't do that. But just go in, ask, just be interested in asking questions. Because I think most people, like for example, and Caleb Hart, whenever I was asking him questions, he's more than happy to answer interesting questions which are about the run and about the game. And that's the best way you're going to learn. Like if you're not asking questions, you won't know. And then there's speedrun.com. You can ask questions there. There's there's the chat there. There's a Discord. You can always ask questions there. There's plenty, and there's obviously like the GDQ runs. Like I think as well, and not just FF7 speedrunning, but like any speedrun, is I think it's key that you watch the run first, see if you enjoy the look of that run and what appeals about that run to you. Like, for what appealed to me back in the day was that Tifa kicks ass in that. Like, she's doing like crits left, right, and center, and I'm like, I've loved like anytime you're doing a critical hit, I'm like, yeah, So I love that personally, and that's what one of the things that drew me to FF7 is like how badass Tifa became. So that's also having the enjoyment and having that extra bit of push just to push me forward. But I think there's that as well for any run, to just go out there, find a game that you enjoy. You have to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it. Also, this is such a weird thing to bring up, but if you want to speedrun your favorite game of all time, just be careful, because you will never be able to play that game casually ever again. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if I play FF7 now casually, obviously the first thing I'm wanting to do is menu skips and battle skips and step count and all this, and then even doing boss fight. And even we just did a modded playthrough of FF7, and I'm already trying to do boss strategies and stuff, or showing people like, oh, for the casual people coming in to watch just some random guy playing a mod, and they're going, oh, actually speedrunners can do this, and not like showing off, but just showing them cool stuff. But it's just really hard to play it normal. So whatever game you choose, make sure you're okay with it. If it's your favorite game of all time and you want to speedrun it, again, make sure that you enjoy the run. You've got to enjoy it, and check this, intuitive guides out there, and make sure like when you watch it that you believe that you can do it, because my goal was to finish Final Fantasy VII speedrun by the end of December last year, and I beat the game by the end of March. And that was because it was persistent of trying and learning and asking questions, and I'd already learned so much in runs anyway, that I remember before I was running, there was another runner. She doesn't run at the moment. She was asking a lot of questions like, oh, is it like this and like this? And I was just some guy watching FF7 speedruns, and I was I was answering the questions for her. So I realized at a point, I need to be learning this game because I already know a lot about it. So, but anyway, derailed a bit. But I think those few things I'd certainly ask, and then obviously the obvious of just doing it, just picking up the game and trying it.
Wonderful. I think we're probably getting up to Cosmo Canyon skip actually on your playthrough. So everyone in chat, we have just gone through all of my preset questions, which means I'm now going to start asking the questions that you guys have put in. If you've got a question for Neon and you haven't put it through yet, I've got a channel point redemption that you can do, where you can just click on that. It's only 50 points, so you should have access to it already, and put in your question for Neon, and we'll go through them now. So I am aware that it was 2 hours ago when some people started to put their questions in. So James asked, do you remember how you felt when the extended compilation entries of Final Fantasy VII were announced, Advent Children, etc.? And what do you think of them now, looking back, compared to the original?
Oh, wait, so the compilation, so I'm guessing like they mean like Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core, and Advent Children? God, I guessed them three, yeah. God, I played Crisis Core. It took me ages because I would play Crisis Core on a PSP and it would be only whenever I'd go on holiday. So, or, you know, traveling or something. So, it was a game I constantly played, but it was only ever when I was away and I would never play it at home. I don't know why. And I'll be honest, I was a bit naive to it. I didn't quite know what that game was. I thought it was just a game where you play as Zack. And then seeing I don't want to spoil it for you, H-Bomb, if you've not played it, but seeing like how the game unfolded took me by surprise, and then I fell in love with it at the end. But I loved that. Advent Children, God, I'm going to be such a boomer here, I guess is the word I'll use about myself here. But I remember back in my day that there was kind of like I was still kind of getting to grips with internet. God, I'm such an oldie here. And I remember my mum had this really awful PC, but I remember I don't know where I'd heard about it, whether it was in a PlayStation magazine or something, but there was rumors of a movie. And obviously FF7, I was all over it. And there was a website that I went to and it had teasers. Just like I remember vividly where Cloud would be walking through on the camera would be on the side shot of Cloud walking sideways through like the church. I remember thinking, God, that is Cloud. Yeah, yeah. Oh, he's got that thing on his arm. Oh, I wonder what that is. And who's the hooded man in the wheelchair? And God, it was I was just buzzing. And I eventually did go out and I think I went to like Virgin Megastores or HMV or something. And I bought the DVD and went home and watched it. But I loved the movie. Not a great fan of it now. It's an okay movie now. Obviously, it hasn't like aged as well as it should have done. I don't think. Still looks incredible, of course, but like the way the compilation or even FF7 has grown as a whole, I wouldn't say Advent Children's grown too well. And if you want to kind of make sense of Advent Children, I think you want to watch the complete version at the very least. And where was it? Crisis Core, Advent Children. Am I missing one? I said one earlier. Dirge of Cerberus. Yeah, I picked up Dirge, of course. I loved it. Picked it up from Woolworths. And yeah, I played that and hammered that. I didn't dislike Dirge. I guess I was like everyone else where they were just disappointed that you were controlling Vincent, which is fine, but the fact that it was a shooter. I was more excited for just more story and lore. Looking back now, I don't remember much about Dirge, but maybe because I only completed it once. But again, I was all over it. Anything with Final Fantasy VII, I was all over it. But 7 was just my baby, like the OG. When the remake was announced in 2015, I cried many times, purely because I'll get choked up when I think about it now because it means so much to me. But watching the trailer back in 2015, if you listen to the narrator, he's actually talking to us, like to the diehard FF7 fans, and when you kind of hear the narrator kind of say, "And they're coming back." And then you just see a shot of Cloud and Barrett walking through, presumably the slums. I was just broken. I was just like, give me this now. So fast forward in many years later, and we finally get more trailers and finally the release date, and I was just incredibly just overwhelmed. I remember I pre-ordered it digitally because I was afraid that during COVID that we wouldn't get the actual game delivered in time, which is the irony because Square Enix decided to ship them out early anyway. But yeah, I played it the following morning, like bright and early, 9 o'clock, and just hammered that game. But I adore the remake. I think it's fantastic. I know people might have their gripes with it, or maybe don't like the way that the story's kind of looking like it's going. But I still think that all the fans that feel that way, they'll play part 2, and I think part 2 is going to blow their mind. It's going to be a journey people definitely want to be on. So, good question, James.
My cat is harassing me right now. She's desperate for attention.
Oh, my cat's behind me. I feel you on that one.
She's just pushing herself into my feet. Scott asked, have you ever considered running with no splits or maybe just fewer splits?
Ooh, running with no splits. Well, if that was a speedrun, I'd need to prove the time I do. With less splits, I could do. I mean, I guess I should have touched. I'm looking at myself raging in the video about something here. God, I need to calm down. I'm just passionate. Something I should have touched on with this split segment there is the amount of splits you have is completely up to you as a runner. You can have 5. You don't have to have 20. But obviously, the more you have, the more in depth your run looks to you. It's personal to you, and you can see where you've lost time and in what section. Like if you just had a start, pressing new game and then end, you might have lost 3 minutes in that run, but you have no idea where. But by having those splits there, you can say, "Oh, I lost, this much time on big guard, for example." There, God, I'm terrible in that run. But yeah, I'm behind on these times here, but I know I can do better in the next run. So it's more about you developing yourself and being able to monitor your time. But as for no time, I could run no time, I suppose, which is what I would do if I was doing a run offline. I used to run with no time, but then I would start to run with the timer on, because if I PB'd or finished a run and it was an insane time and I didn't record it, I'd have been gutted. Now, do you need a timer? Actually, you'd be kind of surprised to know that technically you don't. It would be retimed. Like, so let's say something happened with my splits, they would be able to retime that. So you don't actually need a timer, but I think it's evidence to say that you've done it, and again, it's for your own tracking of time.
So on that, do you think you have more splits than other speedrunners would have, or do you think you have pretty much the same splits?
I think I have about the same. When I made my splits, I think I went to our runners and copied theirs. And then where they would split, which again is completely up to you, where you split, I split on the reward screen of bosses typically, and let's say I picked up like the death blow material, which is coming up soon if we get that far. When I exit that screen, I will split to say that we've picked it up. So certain things, and I picked them up from runners I would watch. Most of my early days was Caleb Part 42. He gets literally not even hundreds, but he gets thousands of people watching him. And I just watched and looked at how he split, and then I would ask him again. I would ask questions, say, do you always split in the same area, or when do you split? And I think I remember him saying, "Oh no, I always split on the reward screen." So I was like, "Okay, well, I split on the reward screen," because I thought you all had to split on a certain, the certain area, a certain part at the same time, which is not the case at all. So Dave Stereo, for example, someone I know that MHBOM, when he splits when the boss goes red. The animation when it goes, he splits there. You see, so and some runners do. I don't, because I don't like the idea that I'm holding the controller and then he can just flash up on your screen. Then I'll be like, oh, split. So I don't like that, purely because I'm afraid I'll mistime it. So, but by the time you're hearing then I'm like, okay, it's time to split in a minute. So, and like even casually playing, we're playing casually and you hear that music, I went like this, and I've pressed split about 4 times in my modded playthrough, even though there's no split there, just because it's just drilled into you at that point. So, but yeah, I think that's, yeah, good answer.
On that question of splits as well, when do you press end, like for your final time call? At what point in the game is that?
Oh, okay. So you must, and again, that's the part of the rule, so it's not even preference. Is that everyone starts? Well, I say everyone. Some categories are different, which is like emulator, but console, like PS2, you start your timer at new game, at clicking new game, and you would end your final time on the final hit on Sephiroth. So if you do Omni Slash, it's the final hit, not the first hit of Omni Slash, the final hit, so the big charge up and then split. If you don't do Omni Slash, most people think you might die, but you don't. Cloud has like 1,000% chance to counterattack, so you can just let go of everything, put your controller down, and then once you hear Cloud, I normally do it to the noise when Cloud does the slash, you just press split. I mean, it's about a 99% as accurate as everyone else will get it. Mine looks like it's off because I'm using a different kind of capture card, so my split will look like it starts early before the game actually starts, and then it looks like it splits early when I but you're talking like a 1.5 second difference or something. But yeah, that's typically the rule of it. But again, like if anything looked dodgy, I don't just go, right, well, there's my time. You know, there's moderators for speedrun.com that will monitor or go over that whole, not the whole run. They will look at key moments and then check if the run's, valid. And then they'll say, okay, it's been approved. So they'll approve your run for you. So it's not a simple process of, oh, you've beaten your time to get world record. You have to get it approved, and it can take 5 to 10 days or more sometimes. So
our next question has come from Moments of Green. Now we've possibly kind of touched on this, but what is your favorite thing about speedrunning games?
Ooh, speedrun games. I think if I'm not talking FF7, because it's obviously I've been running that a while now, it's the they call it the honeymoon period of a speedrun, where you've got the strats down and you've done 2 runs, and then you start getting quite good at the run. Then you start seeing like 8-minute gold splits and 10-minute gold splits and 6. So it's called the honeymoon period, where you're looking at your big, massive time saves. That's probably one of the most enjoyable moments for a speedrunner, is to see those times like that. I think that's really good to see. And also learning a different run, for example, is the added extra knowledge of running another game, so that you can take that into the main game you run. So I ran Final Fantasy VII first. So then when I went to Final Fantasy VIII, suddenly, and not boasting here, I'm talking with my own experiences, my general movement was quite good because I was experienced in 7. And which then meant my step count in 8 was not as bad as it would be for a complete new beginner. So it's amazing what you can take from one run to another run to learn a completely different run. So there's still other runs I might learn. It's time, and also I'm picky, because I can you won't be able to play that game normally anymore, and it's literally asking yourself, are you ready to say goodbye to that game casually? It's kind of hard and sad.
It's a little sad. Snowman asked, you said you didn't have a lot of experience with games 1 to 6. Have you ever considered giving any of them a chance? And if so, which ones?
Well, I have played 6, but casually. I haven't watched a speedrun. So when I said I haven't got experience in it, it's more the speedrun side of it. But FF1 I've played a little bit of, and a little bit of 3. I've never played 2, never played 4 or 5. In terms of learning those speedruns, I haven't got any plans, and I don't plan on to anytime soon yet. Again, I don't think without seeing anything, it doesn't appeal to me. But I know that the older ones do have, I believe, and some of them anyway, they do have step count, I think. So yeah, I would absolutely give them a shot. I mean, as a diehard fan, I've obviously would play like Crisis Core and Dirge, and played most of my cat. Most of my runs between the 7, most of the games between 7 and 15, and then later 16. I definitely would like to try out 1, 2, 5, and give them all, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5,
Yeah.
to give them a go. Not 1, 2, 5, to give them a go, I think. But as for a speedrun, not yet. I think I'm always a fan of, kind of an added thing there is, as a speedrunner, you'll play a game casually, and then, like, I'm playing FF12 right now casually, but I'm already thinking, oh, I wonder what a speedrun looks like. Immediately you say it, or you start thinking of, oh, that's another one of my brilliant games. I wonder what a run looks like. So lately, and I don't know why, literally the last month, I watched a Metal Gear Solid speedrun. I watched a Metal Gear Solid a 2 speedrun. I watched a Final Fantasy 15 speedrun, because I was like, how did they speedrun FF15? And again, it's kind of like fishing around for a run that looks good, and would you try it? I've also watched a Final Fantasy VII Remake speedrun, and what glitches are available, because I'm like, oh, there's no step count, so I wonder, there can't be any glitches because it's PS4, PS5. But no, there's glitches on the PS4 version, so I've watched those runs and they appeal to me, but again, whether I would actually learn them, I don't know.
Okay. So I've got a question. Which speedrunners, hold on, who wrote this? Nitro. Which speedrunners who would you say were your greatest mentors or inspiration? Are they Twitch streamers? Because if they are, could we do shout outs for them so people can find them?
Ooh, this is a good one. I don't know if I can. I mean, I can name a few here. I don't know if you'll. I can say them. I don't know if I
Mm.
can. If I don't know if I can shout them out, unless
Well, me and
the ones.
Waking can. Waking's
Oh,
here.
okay,
Let's see
sure.
if we can.
So okay, there's quite a few. First one that started like the one I watched a lot and asking questions to was Killer Part 42. He's an absolutely humongous streamer, but and definitely he got a raid. Definitely a very good runner, and as much as he has like 4,000 to 5,000 people in his chats, some nights when I was watching him, or some mornings I was watching him, he is incredible at reading his Twitch chat. Like he would actually read messages, and he has like thousands of viewers. So Killer Part 42, he had a huge impact on me learning the run more than he actually knows. I don't know if he ever actually knows that. I did send him a message a while back, but um, Dummy Bear, I have to give him a massive shout out. He's done way more for me than I think a lot of people would uh, even care to imagine. He's, we've done a voice chat session with back when we were doing some other routes and skips. He would be teaching me and making me understand things. He would encourage me as well. He would always say, dude, you're going to get sub 7, you're going to clap this next run. And, he did a lot for me. I would say, honestly, a lot of time goes to Dummy Bear helping me. And then if I couldn't learn something like, oh, I can't quite move on this room, this room right, or step count, or, I walked this many steps and something wasn't right, he would be the first one to say, oh, well, you did this wrong and that wrong. And it can be kind of harsh sometimes when you haven't, someone tell you where you've been wrong. But sometimes you need someone to be brutally honest with you to say, well, your movement was sloppy here. And now that's not nice to hear. But if you go, okay, well, that room was sloppy. Okay, I need to do better. Or why did I lose time? He would say, oh, you were maybe slow in the menu here or something. Or sometimes if I was really lucky, he'd say, you were just unlucky. But like a lot of my reassurances were made from him. As if we don't need to shout him out. But Zeal, he again was very helpful with encouraging me and tuning into my streams and actually saying like he actually, I didn't know, but he was watching my streams and I didn't even know it. And for example, a few days ago he was in my stream and I just don't know it, and he just sort of sits quietly. And what I didn't know is he told me once before that in a oh my god he told me that he actually asks about my run when I'm still live, but in his stream. So like, I don't know. I've made some incredibly good friends. I think I'd say a lot of mentors. I definitely would say would be one of them would be Dummy Bear. I don't know if he would be watching this or not, but I've constantly sent him messages to say, if it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't be anywhere near as good as I am now. And the things that he's taught me when I go to his stream and I watch him do it, I knew I'm then knowing what he means, and I'm beginning to learn more and more. And sometimes he would just straight up go, next time you fight this boss, this is the strat you want to do. And I'll go, right, okay. And, so I don't want to say he carried me because that's an easy way of me telling myself that a bit of imposter syndrome and stuff. But he definitely had a huge influence on my learning for sure.
Aww.
There might be some more, but they're the ones that are probably the bigger ones.
That's great. Welcome in raiders as well. Thank you, Mesmer Chair, for the raid. Welcome on in, everybody. As you can see, we're very, very deep into Final Fantasy VII speedrun conversation with Neon Genesis. And as you just saw, I shouted out some of the people that were suggested by Neon that have been great influences for Neon. If any of you do have some speedrun questions that you would like to throw our way, it's the same old thing that we always do. I have a channel point redemption that you can redeem and ask a question that way, and then I won't lose it because I'm currently going through the list of questions that everyone's asked. So if you've got any more that you would like to throw in, please pop them in that way. Let's see where my next one is. Ness asked this, actually. This is quite funny. Ness asked this, Ness Rocker, and then you pretty much answered it accidentally. So Ness asked, how do you live with yourself by skipping Vincent? And it was right at the point where you were talking about all of the different speedrun types that we've got, like the any percent and no slots, all that. And you actually said that there's one where you have to get everything, including Vincent. So Ness, you actually got Vincent in one of the speedruns.
I mean, I think it's sad because a lot of people say, "Oh, we're gonna get Vincent today, right?" And obviously they know we're not gonna get him, purely because, like, obviously there's an additional boss to get him. There's obviously you've got to do the safe key and all this, and obviously there'll be extra encounters. But there is a route, like I said, there is a route. All bosses would class as that as well, because again, there's the boss for the Lost Number, which is the boss before Vincent anyway. So that route as well would also get Vincent. But kind of semi jokes aside, there was a serious topic where for a while now, for a no slots run, people were getting Yuffie because she was a very viable character to get, and I guess she could still arguably be a very good character to use in a speedrun. And I remember Dummy Bear, again, he comes back to a lot of hard work he did, but he finished runs, and I swear he beat at the time, it was months ago now, but he beat my current PB, I believe, but with Yuffie, with a Yuffie route that he kind of he didn't put it together himself. I think someone had put a potential route together and he tested it and just got better at it. But yeah, Yuffie was actually a part of the run. And many moons ago, this is way before I even knew about speedrunning, I believe Yuffie was originally used for speedrunners, I think. Going back way a long time ago there, but yeah.
There you go, guys. You're learning stuff. Pezza did ask, when are you going to try 100% run? That was the question. Not happening. So we've probably answered this one. Moments of Green also asked, what are your top two fave and least fave bosses? Top two least
and favorite. I think I said Demon's Gate to be one of my favorites.
You did.
Another boss fight that is, when it goes right, and it's so pog, and it's not even like a there's a couple. There's one that I would say Materia Cube is really nice to get the execution down if you've got the good RNG and you're working, you get like the good rolls and things. Schizo is actually kind of a nice one to get, because Schizo is quite, like, again, that's a very RNG heavy, if Tifa's going to hit and when she's going to hit and stuff like that. But when that fight goes well for the Schizo one, that's like, for a perfect fight, it can save you so much time. But I've had on an old technique or a strategy we used on Schizo. RNG is so heavy on that old strategy we used to do that I had 13 death blows missed by Tifa. So she missed 13 death blows in that fight, and it cost me about 2 minutes. And I'm just there going, "Come on, Tifa, just hit!" And she was just missing. But when that fight is done right, that's one of my favorite fights to go right anywhere. Least favorites, let me think of a least favorite. There will be one. I don't like Diamond Weapon. Diamond Weapon is so, I swear he always picks on me. Diamond Weapon, every time I start that fight, I swear he steps on Tifa and kills her. And by the time at a certain point in the game, we keep Tifa in the yellow HP. Like, most of the run is she's in yellow, because when she's in yellow, she's doing more damage essentially. So Diamond Weapon is one I get anxious for, and one little tiny slip up can cost you 2-3 minutes in that fight. So I'd say that's one of my least favorites. And there was one more least favorite. One that's trolling me, and it's not even a hard fight. He just trolls me every time. And I swear it must be like the time of the year for him or something, but Reno, so easy. You throw 8 grenades, boss done. Nothing can go wrong, right? Well, in that fight, the first thing that Reno will do is put a pyramid on someone. That's fine. Obviously, naturally for us in a run, we want Tifa to be pyramided because she has the least amount of HP, so we don't want her taking any damage. Fine. So sometimes, though, if he pyramids Barret, that means obviously Tifa and Cloud will take damage. But I've had Reno critical hit Tifa 3 times in a row, getting her down to like 50 HP, and that's an issue because, one, it means I'll probably have to heal her, which kills time because we don't usually have to. and 2, we don't get a full heal with Tifa or from that fight until midway through the Shinra building. So she's got to survive on 40 HP or whatever it is till the Shinra building. So you'd arguably say, what do I do? Do I stop and heal to waste time? Do I reset the run? And I swear he's just been critting me so much lately. And not even that, there's a chance that he can paralyze you. And if he paralyzes you, obviously you've only got 2 people are fighting then, or 1 person technically fighting because one's in a pyramid, then he'll get another turn. And his next turn, if you're not quick enough, will be another pyramid, which is fine, but it means that that's more animation loss. He'll pyramid 2 people. You've then got the last person to just throw grenades on, which means they're definitely going to get hit. And I swear, I've had that the last few months quite a lot lately. So I don't know if it's like, if I said something about his mum or something, but he hates me. So I'd say honestly he's one of the worst. I don't like it at all. I always lose time on that split as well.
I'd say an area to practice, but you clearly can't because it's just RNG.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even, it's like, it's not even something you can practice, which is more frustrating because you can go, right, I can go and do 100 Renos, and I guarantee, of course, in practice, the fight goes perfectly. In a run, of course, you've upset his mum and he's whacking you and critting you, and you're like, dude. Or it's sometimes it's the other way around. You'll get the perfect Reno, but like other parts of that split or segment, you've had the worst luck, and you're like, well, it doesn't really matter that I've had a good Reno because I've had a terrible, fight or runaways or something, or maybe you're 20 seconds in the red anyway. So it doesn't really matter. That's just how it goes.
James also asked the question, what do you consider the real run killers in Final Fantasy VII?
The fight we're watching right now, for those who can see the screen, this is definitely one of the biggest. So I go back to saying, as I'm watching myself back, which is really weird, when I said that I said earlier in the podcast that Demon's Gate can crit for 2,800 in a casual playthrough. Well, here you can see my HP is like 600 and 650. I think looking at Kate Sith, has actually got in this run, he has less HP than I normally have, but all it takes is like, if Kate was to get a crit right now, he'd die. Like it would be, and that probably would be run over. So this fight in particular is you can see you can see the concentration in the video for those who can see it. And look, there's Kate Sith. He died.
Oh my god, Cloud's just gone down.
And now it's like, can I win? But I'm trying to think what happens here.
So Kate Sith and Aerith are dead because the tactic is that Aerith needs to be dead anyway. Because that makes Cloud hit harder.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, because
Cloud is currently just getting hit lots.
Oh god, I don't know what's going to happen here. Even I'm nervous, and I'm like, I've done this.
We know it goes okay.
Oh, I think I remember. Does he die here? How is he still not dead yet? Oh my god, I'm getting stressed watching my own stream back. But yeah, this fight is mega troll. And right here, for those, I'll describe for the audio listeners, but I'm casting Bahamut in here, which is like your oh crap button. You're like, oh crap, Run's going to die. What do I do? So you've got nothing but to throw Bahamut at him. This fight is so scary because Kate, Sith, and Cloud are the only ones that you want alive. Kate Sith dying, like most people would be thinking, can't we just throw a Phoenix down on Kate Sith? And the trick is, I'm watching this back, by the way, this is really weird. I'm wondering if this is if this is my PB. So the trick is now, if I try to Phoenix down Kate, we may not actually, he might just die again. We may not actually survive. I'm watching here. I don't even know what happens here. Do I actually...
I think was that a counter attack that killed him?
Oh, I did a death blow, and so okay, yeah, I did win. I was actually sweating, thinking, "Is this my PB?" So that fight. So again, what I did there is I took a big risk, and you can see my reaction there. But like the big risk there was I did a move there with Cloud. Obviously, it's Cloud solo. I did a death blow. Now, death blow, for those who don't know what it does, it scores a critical hit, but it's only a certain percentage chance in hitting. But with the sword and Cloud, for that fight, it's a 38% chance in a death blow hitting. So potluck was like, okay, what do I do? So I went in with a death blow, and the 38% chance, again, RNG, coming back to that, that question earlier, came inside and we got the win. Now, was that a smooth fight? Not at all, but you take your wins in the speed run. You take your win when you can, and you know that you've done the best you can do, and to get past that fight, it's your adrenaline's running so high. And I get, these are the menus so the whole menu I did there, for those who can actually see. Obviously that's all up in here because I haven't got any notes now, but I used to have notes. But yeah, definitely Demon's Gate for sure. It's such a tense fight. And like I said earlier, like I'm quite an anxious person anyway, but like when getting into a fight with that, you're like, and there's like, whether there's 50 people watching you or 100 or 200, it's nerve-wracking. And there is a kind of mentality where when your run dies, it's easy to kind of get on the mindset of, oh, I've let people down. When in reality, it's actually the other way around. People are so proud of you for doing your best and getting up to Demon's Gate and dying. Dying to Demon's Gate, you know what? It's understandable to die to a run killer, to be fair. But yeah, Demon's Gate for sure is one of the harder bosses in this game anyway.
John Rossums asks the question, would you learn a different category for Final Fantasy VII at any point?
Hi, John. I didn't know John was here. John Rossums does all bosses. Would I consider doing another run for FF7? There's a part of me that would like to, but there's also a part of me that's like, oh my god, it will ruin my step count brain because I know no slots in my head. And then if I started doing like, a different route, I'd be like, oh my god, I'm gonna, mess up my muscle memory with the slots in my head with the no slots running in my head for another route. So I don't have any plans to do that, I don't think. But maybe, I don't think a Hundo. I've kind of thought about trying a slots run, but learning that timing for the slots for Kate Sith, it doesn't look easy and requires a lot of practice, I'm sure. But yeah, no, maybe I would try like no major skips. I think is maybe one I would like to try. That could be fun. If I did do another run, I think it would be that one because that would see parts of the game that I don't normally get to see. I would fight like Airbuster, who I haven't seen in years, because again we always skip it. So I probably would try maybe no major skips. I think looks fun as well, bit more chill.
To carry on with that kind of area, Scott asked the question: what do you believe is the next major skip, and what would you like to skip?
Oh, the next major skip. I think it's kind of been debunked in a way, but a lot of people were thinking, could we hypothetically, and I guess it's hypothetically, could we skip the live stream? Because the live stream would probably save you about 15 or so minutes, but I don't think that could be possible. It's something in the coding where the game would think that basically without that event happening, the live stream segment happening, Cloud would not be classed as the leader of the party because you've not done the event, because he then becomes the leader again after the live stream segment. So if I had to skip a segment myself, there is one section I would love to skip. I mean, I honestly, I wouldn't want to do any more major skips now, personally. I like the run the way it is. I'd definitely like to see it evolve more, but with no extra big skips anywhere. But I think one section I would like to skip, just because the pacing is just so weird from it, is after Genova Death, you run up the whirlwinds, the whirlwind mazes, and you've got the waves going across the screen. Once you pass all that and you hit a certain point, it's just dialogue mashing for about 7 or 8 minutes, and then a 1.5 minute break, and then you end up waking up in Junon. So I would love to skip all that like flashback there, all that, not even flashback, but a kind of flashback, but all that dialogue. I would love to skip it because it, again, other than dialogue, it's just not it's not benefiting any way. It's not Gil, it's not EXP. It's just dialogue mashing, and from literally, and it goes back in the run. So, and I'll go through it for those who don't know or over familiar with FF7. But if you go through after dying, it starts to get quite a tense run because you've literally got small fight, you've got to learn big guard. So you learn your big guard, you go over, you've got the tense moment of Cosmo Canyon escape. Will he get it? Will he not? Will he soft lock? Will he? So it's get into that, and then literally by the time you've digested that you've just done a pixel perfect skip and that your runner's not dead, you're fighting Materia Keeper, your first big run killer. So you get to Materia Keeper, you've done the menu, and you've done Materia Keeper. You think, okay, CC skip, Materia Keeper done, what's next? You go up the map, no pincer. Get into Rocket Town, you've got Palmer. You fight Palmer, you go, another boss down, and then you have a 15-minute respite in Gold Saucer, Aerith and Cloud on the gondola and all this. And then it's like, okay, well, it's Red Dragon time, Temple of the Ancients. Then it's like literally a minute later, Demon's Gate. It's all this like flush of bosses. And then it gets to like Genova Life, the end of disc 1. So you've got another boss fight. Then you start disc 2, it slows down a little bit. But you're doing snowboarding and you're going through like Gaia's Cliff, which is like one of my favorite areas, to be fair. It's pretty because of the snow. And then you're fighting Schizo. Then you're like, okay, there's another boss. Then you're fighting Genova Death, another boss. And then it just dies right down. It just dies and goes into 6 minutes of mashing. So the pacing gets kind of weird. So if we could skip that somehow, I'd be happy with that. And then you wake up in June and then this too kind of gets a bit slow, but then after the live stream segment, picks back up again with like Kariyama and Rude and all these other cool bosses. So it just dies down a little bit practically from like the reunion, as they call it, until like, I mean, even Junin, it's not too bad. So just up until Junin, it's a short section, but it'd be nice to get rid of that, I think, personally, anyway.
We'll get someone on that. We'll get someone to work on getting rid of that section.
Yeah, let's Kuma, come on, let's try and get that skip, please. Probably won't skip that much time, I don't think. It probably skip like 10 minutes, but I'll take it.
It's something. Pezza actually asked this question back when we were talking about Demon's Gate. Why don't you just buy soft for Demon's Gate?
Okay, so Demon's Gate has an 8% chance in casting a move called Petrify Eye, which petrifies one of your characters. Now, if it lands on Cloud or Kate, it's kind of oof and potentially run over. If it lands on Aerith, which it never does because it's Final Fantasy VII, you can survive and you can just kill her and it's fine, which sounds awful when I say that out loud. But the reason why we don't buy a soft is because the shops that we go to, none of them really sell softs. There is a soft that we can buy from a shop behind us in North Coral when we get there, but in a separate shop. And honestly, without sounding really petty, it's time loss. Like, it's just as simple as that. It's time loss. And for a 92% chance of Demons Gate not doing it, for you to lose, even if it's just 8 seconds, you're losing 8 seconds for a move that's highly unlikely. That's most reasons why we don't. I have, because Pez's running thing is to tell me, get a soft. So I've just been buying them when I know deep down I probably don't need them. But the odd time I have bought them, I've shouted, Pez, this is for you. And I've used the soft, but that's Pez's running joke, is to basically remind me to pick up a soft. So I always make a joke with him saying, well, if I ever get, 5 seconds away from the world record, I can easily get that, Kappa. I can easily get that by not picking up a soft. But yeah, I don't mind picking up the soft. It's just because it's not a part of my notes or the route, or it's more of a safety strat. I just don't do it. But I guess because of Pez, I've been doing it. The cat's just enjoying.
Pez says thanks.
He's still here.
Okay, so I've got 2 more questions, I think. One of which we may have already answered. So my next question is, Papa Wheelie asks, Cactuar or Moogle, which is cuter?
Oh,
let me get mine. Hang on, let me get mine. Hang on. Because I personally think, oh no, he's green. You can't see him.
Oh my god, it's invisible.
I've got a green square Cactuar.
Okay, audio listeners, if you ever come back, you need to look at the video to just see that. I'm not sure if it's cursed or cute. It's some form of both. I don't know. It's a really tough one. I absolutely love both. And Moogles are adorable because we can actually, most of the time we can hear them speak. You can hear them a little bit of Cactuars. I kind of want to say cactus. I feel like Moogle's the easy answer. So I say cactus or cactuars. I
Whichever
think they're
way we
cute.
want to call them.
Yeah.
ST asked the question, what is your least favorite Final Fantasy to speedrun and why? I think did you answer
Yeah,
that one?
I kind of touched on it. I mean, so I'll just state again. I've ran 7, 8. I've never touched 9 yet. It could be on the list to play to speedrun eventually, potentially. It's definitely on my like notes to write down to learn. 10 now. 10 is a bit of a one. I don't feel like I deserve to include 10, but I will because I have ran 10 up until I'd say about maybe about 85% of the game. I did it with no sphere grid, but I would say that was probably the least enjoyable out of 7, 8, and 10 for me. Only because it was more, well, one, you can't skip cutscenes in 10. You can skip some FMVs on PC, but you cannot skip cutscenes. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's great, because all those cutscenes, you can have a nice bathroom break. No, you can't, because there is certain dialogue boxes. So let's say, let me give you an idea. So let's say there's 20 dialogue lines in an FMV that you are, in a cutscene that you're sat watching. You can mash, let's say, 3 of those text boxes, right, to skip through a bit of text. So you can AFK, because some of those cutscenes, like you've got to skip that text. It's so small, but it's so true. But so I suppose that slows down the run. So I guess that makes it enjoyable, less enjoyable. But then I think on the other hand, because the run's still intact, because the game's still intact, you can kind of still follow the story in some way. But also from a battle standpoint, the fights were very much kind of scripted. So like I could go and do like I think it's called, what's it called? I think it's called the Blitz or something, boss. Blitzinator or something? Blitzerator in Luca, and I can do that like 5 times in a row and guarantee it'll be the same every time. Because of what I mentioned earlier, where you would have like Tidus attack, the boss will attack next, and it'll be these other, it's the same thing every time. It's not RNG in fights per se, so that made it a little less enjoyable. But does that mean I don't? Doesn't mean I don't like the run at all. And I think on top of that, I think because of the length of the run, like I practiced the no favorite run, and I started early in the morning, like 10 o'clock maybe, and then it got to 11 o'clock at night or half 11, and I was only 12 hours into the run. I was like 12 or so hours into my run, and I was only in the Calmland, so I was like nowhere near finishing that game yet. So that run would have taken me 13 to 16 hours. So the sheer length of the run made it less enjoyable, but if I was more prepared for it, I think I might have enjoyed it more. And I think I also chose a bad run there because I did no sphere grid run when I should have done a regular run, I think. So 10 would be my least favorite so far, but I've only technically ran those 3 games, technically, including 10.
Okay, we got one more question in from Blink.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have days where you're stuck in the reactor or Midgar? And if so, how do you overcome the frustration?
I have a really, really good example of this, and I think Pez in the chat will remember this day. It was not that long ago. It was maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, so not too long ago. And it was one of these streams, and it was just one of those days where I loaded up the game, and I was going in, and one of the first things you do as an FF7 speedrunner is you can skip a battle by using pressing the menu on the exact frame where the battle would take place. Now, based on my movement, again, step count, I know exactly where that's going to be. And I spent 4 hours in one stream just constantly resetting at that battle again and again and again. And even the times where I said, no, I'm not going to skip now. I'm not going to reset now. We're not going to skip the fight, whatever. We're just going to go in. I would then fight Guard Scorpion, and it would be like the worst Guard Scorpion, or the time I'd get would be atrocious for me. Like, let's say, like I typically take anything that's under 9 minutes and 30 seconds, but I was getting like 9:42s and stuff. And I was like going, well, clearly that was because of the battle skip, but just also just a bad Guard Scorpion. So I remember spending 4 hours in there And to overcome that, honestly, I think at that point, when if depending on where you are in your head with frustration, it's good to take a break and play some other games for a little while. Like speedruns don't have to be always so serious. But I think what happened to me is I think I either played something else or ended my stream because I just couldn't do another run. By the next stream, we went in, and the first 3 times we'd reset, it was the battles were spot on. I was getting the battle skip. It was just one of those days. And then I think to this day, I have not ever had as much trouble as that day, but it was so embarrassing because I was like, it made me self doubt a lot. I was there thinking, why can I not do it? Like I can do this skip. Why is it not working? And it would always be like an inch away from where it would be, or it'd be too late or too early. So I've had those days before. But yeah, I've not been stuck in Midgar for a while, but Reactor, I'll never forget that day. That was awful. And like I say, I was just in such a self doubt, thinking, God, I'm not good at this game anymore, or have I lost my mojo or something? Like I've lost all my powers. But yeah, I think I did practice it. I went off and practiced, for even just half an hour just to go over it and over it and over it because I needed to make it more consistent. So sometimes it's just refreshing that, and that will happen. Not just that, but prime example is there's moments where I need to practice certain small things, like even if it's just one screen of movement. And once I get that down again, I'm like, okay, I can do it now. And it'll be sometimes the things that are never giving you trouble that just suddenly start giving you trouble, and you're going, but why am I doing that all of a sudden? So, but yeah, that's how I overcome them. It's not nice.
Very interesting. I mean, so we've come to the end of our questions now, everybody, and it really is. It's very interesting hearing all of the things, like the amount of practice that you do, but how enjoyable it is, and clearly an addiction, and um, and just the amount of information that's out there for everybody as well is brilliant. Like you say, you know, there's a lot of Twitch streamers who are helpful, like yourself, and then there's also the Discord, the website of the speedrunners as well. It's a very interesting group of people that have this passion for something that just somehow exists, and we can't get enough of it. So thank you so much, Neon, for sharing all of this amazing information this evening, and all of answering everybody's questions. It's been an absolute blast. I hope everybody in chat has also enjoyed it. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And
honestly, you're more than welcome. And if people are interested in learning the run, or if they want to, come and ask questions, I'm not just plugging my own stream here, but you can drop by in mine or any other runless chats, and you can ask some questions there. Or, there's nothing to be intimidated about. And I know that there will be some people that say in any community that there'll be some bad eggs out there, and there will be, I think, in any platform or any, not just talking speedrunning here, but any like streaming platform, on YouTube, wherever, there will be those bad eggs out there. But I think don't be put off by those, and don't let that put off you from wanting to learn something you want to learn. And if you want to ask some questions to me or to someone else, or even after this, you can just Twitter me or something and just tweet me.
and we've just got a raid from North.
Saw that come in.
North, we were just finishing. Welcome on in, everybody. If you have any questions for Neon, be very quick, because we've been live for a good few hours. So yes, welcome on in, everybody. Thank you so much for the raid. If any of you have any questions that we may not have answered, think of something obscure about Final Fantasy VII speedrunning. Thank you so much. But yes, we were just wrapping up for the evening. If anybody is interested in catching the VOD on this, obviously the VOD is on Twitch, but I will also be putting it on YouTube. It is actually a podcast, so it does go on places like Spotify, whatever the Apple one is. You'll find it everywhere that has a podcast. You should be able to find it. Although it is actually officially the Final Fantasy Appreciation Society, but I never call it that. I really should. That is its official title.
I've been calling it that for you,
Oh,
H-bomb.
thank
Don't
you
worry.
so much. All right, we're starting to get some questions. Cornfed says, if you could delete one skip from existence, which would it be?
Delete one skip. I do like doing card skip. Cosmo Canyon skip's tense and fun. There is one. I know there is one that I hate doing. I'm sure of it. I think it's shell hut skip's not too bad. I should think of one really quick. Maybe honestly maybe Cosmo Canyon skip, because we literally skip past Cosmo Canyon and it's one of the best stories and it literally has one of the best soundtracks, and yet we skip it and we only hear it once in the entire speedrun. So probably Cosmo Canyon skip if I could go back, to just doing that again, I think.
That's a nice choice. Corpy asks, have you ever had to kill a run because bathroom break was too far ahead?
Actually, no, I haven't, thank God. But I have been busting on one of the breaks, and usually by the time we get to the live stream break, 3.5 minutes, it's like, you just want to, sometimes it's just, you just want to go and pee, you just gotta rush, pee, and sometimes it's my cat, she'll want feeding, and then at that point it's like, you haven't really got much of a break after the live stream, break, so you're kind of hoping for that my cat's behaving and that she doesn't. I've had her claw in my shoulder and my arm and all this, literally like some of the last bosses. I'm like, when, and I need to stop playing and pulling on my controller cable. I'm like, Luna, just not now. Daddy's working. But no, luckily I've never needed the bathroom that bad that I've had to end a run. I don't think anyway.
I feel like it would be memorable. I feel like your community would definitely point it out.
Oh yeah. They won't let me forget that, I'm telling you.
Thank you again. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the raids as well. Thank you everyone for following and popping on in. It's been lovely having you all. It's been lovely having all these questions. Really appreciate Neon giving his time as well, especially from me having to postpone yesterday. If anyone out there has ever had an ocular migraine before, woo, aren't they a trippy thing? Anyway, we'll talk about that another stream. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us tonight. Neon, when are you next streaming and what are you currently streaming?
Currently streaming for the first time ever, which is so weird for me to say. I'm playing Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age. We did stream a bit today. We'll be... I don't know, I might be live tomorrow, but if not, I will most likely be live Saturday and Sunday. Streams and the days I normally stream are Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday. They're the days I normally stream. There'll be some speedruns coming soon of FF7. Currently taking a small break since we PB'd quite a few times just before I moved to him here. So yeah, there'll be some cool stuff coming soon.
And that's normal sort of daytime for UK. What time do you normally start?
It's normally starting somewhere around midday UK time until it can be anywhere between 8 and 10 p.m. depending on how addicted I am to speedrunning. I mean, how much I'm enjoying the stream.
But also Final Fantasy XII. He's very much enjoying Final Fantasy XII right now. Doing lots of lots of streaming of that. Okay, well, we will wrap up for this evening. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your week. This, as I said, this will be up on YouTube and on all of the podcast platforms. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye!
Bye!